Chapter 4:18. After Chiu Chiu's live teaching, the Beiki assassin players once again set off a wave of suicidal craze. Because the teaching this time was based on successful cultivation cases, many players believed it without a doubt. Many jokes even appeared because of this. I'm an assassin player, I have no feelings. I'm an assassin player, my eyes are cold. All the assassin players had an illusion during this period of time. The other professions were doomed, and the assassin profession was going to rise. They were immersed in the beautiful fantasy, looking forward to learning the prajna sacrificial skill and beating the other professional players hard, letting them know the wrath of a lowly player. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry about this, because he knew very well that Chiu Chiu's success was difficult to replicate. However, this was not absolute, because when the assassin players were suicidal, their mentality was also extremely firm, just like Chiu Chiu's. This was because, compared to the previous suicidal collection, many assassin players at that time had the mentality of giving it a try and did not fully believe in it. However, it was different this time. They had absolute faith in Chiu Chiu's teaching because Chiu Chiu had already succeeded. A change in mentality could perhaps bring about miracles. Lu Wu could only hope for this, but he did not insist on anything. This mentality of becoming stronger was what Lu Wu was happy to see. After all, the stronger the players were, the stronger he would be. They would always complement each other. Recently, the development of the game had returned to the right track, but something in reality caught Lu Wu's attention. It was because Battle Online's non-server had been activated. However, the activation of the non-server this time had nothing to do with Lu Wu. The news that he received was that Battle Online's non-server had been activated. When he first received the news, Lu Wu was completely dumbfounded. At that time, Wu Gui called him and complained over the phone, asking why the non-server was activated without informing him. At that time, Lu Wu was confused and immediately told Wu Gui that he did not activate the non-server server. Then Lu Wu and Wu Gui fell into a state of confusion. Although Lu Wu had considered setting up a non-server server, it was impossible for him to activate it at this stage due to the setting of the new growth system and the imperfect choice of server. But why was it activated? Therefore, Lu Wu looked for Bai Li, who was eating. Bai Li was dumbfounded as well. She had no idea why Lu Wu said that the unlicensed server had been activated. She had not even started to design the many settings for the unlicensed server. This made Lu Wu even more confused. He did not understand what was going on, so he turned on his computer and started searching for information about Battle Online. Immediately, a large number of inquiries appeared. An epic-making masterpiece, Battle Online, officially launched in non-server. Players can make reservations in advance. Battle Online has officially launched its non-server. Good days are here for African players. I've been eagerly waiting for the good news for non-server players. Battle Online has officially entered the game. The date has been confirmed. On June 11th, Battle Online will open its non-server official website and game download. Battle Africa has been released ahead of schedule. The game we've been waiting for is finally here. Lu Wu was confused. The first thing that came to Lu Wu's mind when he saw the information was that it was fake news. As the big boss behind the scenes, I didn't even know that the server was about to open, and yet you, the gaming media, knew about it in advance? At this moment, Lu Wu really had a toothache. He quickly logged into the official website of Battle Online and found that the players of the 4 major servers were already discussing the issue of the opening of the non-server. Obviously, the players of the 4 major servers had also believed the fact that the non-server was about to be launched. This gave Lu Wu a headache. Fortunately, there were also players who raised doubts about this. Wandering swordsmen, hell, that can't be right. Before Battle Online launched a new server, it would always open up the forum and function options of the second-level page in advance. Why is it so sloppy this time? Star Universe, Europe. Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too. When the European server was launched, it was publicized for a long time in advance. Many places had embedded the advertisements of Battle Online and waited for a few days before it was launched. This time it's too fast. Pegasus Meteor Fist, Asia, you're right. It was the same when the Asia server was launched. Agent 173 had carried out 2 weeks of large-scale publicity. This time, the opening of the non-server was indeed too sloppy. It's not the style of a sh asterisk T2Y official. Shuali_the strongest. Most importantly, since the non-server will be launched tomorrow, where's the official announcement? And the non-server forum? None of these are there. Are the non-server players raised by their stepmothers? Of course, maybe they are. Laughing emoji, crayon_Shinchan. I strongly protest that the non-server doesn't have a forum. Otherwise, how would I argue with them? I'll let them feel the horror of the Bakey trolls first. Laughing emoji. A_large_ Wolfdog replied to crayon_Shinchan. You only know how to argue with others. You stubborn trolls. I'll find you sooner or later and beat you to death. Crayon_Shinchan replied to A_large_ Wolfdog, patting the dog's head with a smile. Actually, I've already exposed myself. However, I'm very relieved that he's very reliable and didn't mention my name. What makes me even happier is that it seems like he can't run around at all. So, my crisis has been resolved and you still can't do anything to me. Ha ha ha, laughing emoji. Although many players believed in the opening of the non-server, there were also some who raised their doubts. The obvious point was that the opening of the non-server was too sloppy. It was completely different from the way the Battle Online official launched several servers previously. More importantly, the official website of Battle Online did not have a category page for the non-server. In the eyes of many players, these questions were clearly illogical. Lu Wu could not help but frown when he saw the players discussing about it. Then he looked for Bei Li and began to investigate the matter. After all, it was not a trivial matter. Lu Wu wanted to know who spread the rumor and what their purpose was. With the help of the all-powerful little Bei Li, the investigation went smoothly. Lu Wu soon found out where the original source of the news came from. At first, the news about the opening of the non-server for Battle Online came from a media outlet called Sunlight. It was a small media organization with only 10 people and was not considered an authoritative media outlet at all. Lu Wu was very puzzled about this. Why would the news reported by this small media outlet be believed by so many African players? In order to find out the truth, Lu Wu began to investigate the matter in depth. At the same time, he wanted to know the reason for this media outlet to do so. He did not believe that this media outlet was trying to create a rumor to gain popularity, because this kind of popularity was only temporary. The consequence would be to bear the wrath of thousands of players who were waiting for it. This was definitely not an action that would make up for the loss. In order to find out the reason, Lu Wu clicked on the original news that Battle Online would be logging into the non-server and began to read it. The content of this news was an introduction to Battle Online. After Lu Wu read it, he did not find any problems. However, there was a link below the news. It was labeled Battle Online official website link. It was this link that made Lu Wu very surprised. The domain name of the link was not the real Battle Online official website link at all. Lu Wu still clicked on the link with astonishment. Then Lu Wu was even more confused because the website after the link was redirected was exactly the same as the Battle Online official website. Main page, forum for server categories, live stream category, forum category, game friends list, mailbox, and so on, everything was available. If one were to look at the official website, there would be no flaws at all. Perhaps many veteran players could not find any problems with this website. However, compared to the Battle Online official website, this fake website had an additional option. Game reservation channel. Lu Wu clicked on it curiously. Then, a pop-up window appeared and a few big words appeared. June 11th, Battle Online begins. Below the pop-up window, there was a line of words. Due to the overdraft of Battle Online server maintenance, the company has temporarily decided to implement a charging system for the game. Pre-ordering this game costs $1,888. Do you want to transfer to the payment channel? If the payment is successful, you will be able to download the game on June 11th and start Battle Online. How shameless! Who doesn't know that Battle Online uses love to generate electricity? How dare they set up a buyout system? Lu Wu could not help but widen his eyes when he saw this message. Now he finally knew what the small gaming media organization was trying to do. It turned out to be a scam website. They put in so much effort to create a one website just to scam a wave of non-server players who were waiting for the game before it was launched. Moreover, they would scam as many as they could. Obviously, they were prepared to run away after scamming them. This infuriated Lu Wu. I, the Great Battle Army, have such a good reputation. If I were to be fooled by you, wouldn't my reputation be tarnished? However, Lu Wu did not take action immediately. Instead, he asked Bei Li to skip the payment option and went to the next page to see the subsequent settings of this fake website. At this moment, another pop-up window appeared. Service launch discount, starting from 30% Soul Coins, event details. Anyone who purchases Soul Coins before the launch of the game will enjoy a 30% discount. In addition, the company promises that the Soul Coins redeemed by topping up can be used across the entire server. Looking at the content above, Lu Wu was speechless. You guys are so evil. Chapter 419. Lu Wu could not help but facepalm when he saw that there was a top-up channel behind the game reservation interface. This is a little too much. You even made the top-up channel page for me in advance. I really have to thank you for that. In fact, Lu Wu also felt it was a pity that this was fake. Otherwise, he would have wanted to top up his account since he was short of Soul Coins. After all, to Lu Wu, money was not as useful as Soul Coins. If he could top up his account at a 30% discount, he would spend all his money and leave some for Bei Li to buy snacks. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. After exiting the phishing website, he immediately asked Bei Li to hack the phishing website. Otherwise, he was afraid that there would be more players who did not know the situation and would be deceived. Subsequently, he posted a notice on the official website of Battle. Regarding the fake activation of the non-server, please do not be fooled. The so-called non-server Battle official website is a fake phishing website. Content: Players, please note that regarding the activation of the non-server, everything reported by various gaming media is purely fictitious. Please do not take it seriously. At the same time, according to the official investigation of Battle, the cause of this incident came from the non-media organization Light of the Sun. The content of the report is purely fictitious. The link in the report leads to an illegal phishing website and is not the main page of Battle official website. Players, please identify it carefully and do not be fooled. Attached is a collection of phishing website screenshots. Attached is a collection of identifying methods. Official Battle Game Team announcement. As soon as the official announcement was released, the originally heated topic among the players was suppressed. A large number of players flocked to the official post. Obviously, the official announcement was beyond the expectations of many players because many players believed the activation of the non-server. After all, a large number of gaming media reported the same thing. However, there were also some players who had already seen through everything and were not surprised by such an outcome. Shueli _ strongest. I have already seen through everything. It is indeed fake news. After all, it does not fit the style of Battle at all. Proudly Akeem. JPG, Crayon _ Shinchan. Dog Official, look what I found in the attached picture. A top-up channel. Look at the pirated version of the game. Don't you have any idea what's going on? Laughing emoji, Watermelon _ Taro. Whoa, Dog Officials. I just went to look for that fake phishing website out of curiosity, and then I realized that I couldn't log into the website. Tell me, did you guys do it? Did you guys secretly do it? Peppa _ Boar. Dog Official, how dare you block that website? Give me back my top-up channel. Hurry up and give it back to me. I want a 30% discount. You have to bear this loss. Don't tell me it's fake. I'm not listening. Pokemon_master. Hahaha dog official. How dare to block our top-up channel. You are shameless. Give it back. Laughing emoji. Invincible_loneliness. Stupid official. You're already a mature official. It's time for you to open a top-up channel. Even the imposters are more aware and motivated than you are. They know that it's time to earn money. Look at you guys. Sigh. Assassin's Creed. Pfft, the truth is making me choke. This is too awesome. The so-called non-server is actually a fake phishing website, and there's even a top-up channel. This is amazing. Now I want to know if this fake website has cheated anyone. Roasting_Jade_hair_ while _hugging_Chong. I think it's a lot of people. After all, there are many loyal African players waiting for Battle Royale in the middle of the game. Brickmoving_expert. I think they're running for their lives. But I think Battle Royale has the ability to help these players recover their losses. After all, isn't the technology of this dog official the most advanced in the world? Laughing emoji African Lion King. This kind of method can only deceive new players. Old players all know that the *TTY officials use their love to generate electricity and have no interest in money. Opening the top-up channel function is even more far-fetched. Let them sell soul coins at a 30% discount? I don't think they can do that even if they break the bones of Battle Royale's boss. Laughing emoji. I want to set the pace. Let's not get sidetracked. Let's ask the dog official to give us back our top-up channel. What? Are you saying it's fake? It has nothing to do with you officials. I advise you to look at the 40-meter sword in my hand and think carefully before you speak. Laughing emoji. After issuing the warning announcement, Lu Wu was shocked to find that the players did not seem to care about the harm of the phishing website. Soon, the topic of the discussion was the 30% discount channel on the pirated website. With the theme that the fake website is more ambitious than the dog official, it started another wave of public opinion. They all hoped that the dog official would be more ambitious. While they were greedy, they should learn to fish for money and try to earn some dirty money, even if it was just for a day. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Only the idiotic netizens of the Battle Royale forum could do something like this to the players asking the Battle Royale forum to cheat them. However, if there was a 30% discount channel, he would like to top up his coins. How could it be the player's turn? Therefore, it was not realistic at all. As for exchanging the soul coins in his inventory for the player's money, it was even more impossible. After Lu Wu issued the announcement in the official form, many gaming media started to write articles and report on this blunder without Lu Wu having to do anything. After all, Battle Online had an extraordinary status in the gaming circle. This was considered a hot topic in the gaming circle. The number of players who paid attention to this matter was incomparably large. Naturally, they were willing to take the initiative to report it. Soon, the truth spread to the African region. At this moment, many African gaming media changed their tune and began to copy the foreign media's report to clarify the truth. This was how the media worked. Many hot topics would rush to reprint and report as soon as there was a breaking point for fear of being slow. Sometimes they would not even know the whole story and the truth of the matter. Moreover, after the truth was clarified, they would skillfully shift the blame to the media that they reprinted, saying that their media was innocent and that they were only reprinting and had nothing to do with the incident. After the truth was revealed, the Light of the Sun Media Agency instantly became the focus of the gaming circle. As the source of this blunder, Lu Wu did not even need to do anything. The angry African players started to report crazily. Local reports, online reports, human flesh searches, and so on. The African players used every method they could think of to take down this media company. All of this happened too suddenly. The mastermind, the Light of Sun Agency, who was ready to make a profit and run away, was caught unprepared. What made them even more stunned was that the website that they had worked so hard to build was hacked within 2 days. They could not access the website at all. Fortunately, they were already prepared to run away. After all, when they were ready to make a profit, they were ready to run away. They just did not expect it to happen so soon. The only thing that comforted them was that they had earned a large amount of top-up money from the African players. For safety's sake, they transferred the money after the players successfully top up into dozens of overseas bank accounts that they had prepared in advance. Even if the top-up accounts were blocked, they did not have to worry about anything. A storm was brewing outside. They hurriedly began to escape through the channels, preparing to retreat overseas. However, what they did not know was that Lu Wu had already locked onto them. How could he let them go so easily? Not only did they hurt the many players who loved Battle Online, but they also damaged Battle Online's reputation and Lu Wu's own interests. For such an incident, he had to kill the chicken to show the monkey. Therefore, on the same day, Lu Wu asked Bailey to hack all the overseas accounts. He used the artifact to calculate all the money flows in the accounts and transferred all the original amount back to the accounts of the players who were cheated. Everything that Lu Wu had done had undoubtedly caused the Light of Sun's media personnel, who were the masterminds behind this blunder, to break down. His phone kept ringing with transfer notifications, but there was nothing he could do. Even when he called overseas and tried to freeze the accounts to prevent further transfers, it was all in vain under the all-powerful Bailey's means. All the funds, including the original funds in these overseas accounts, were all emptied. A total of 34 overseas bank accounts were cleared in just a few minutes, with a total amount of 9.3 billion. The Light of Sun's personnel, who were the masterminds behind all this, only received a bunch of transfer messages in the end. They were left with nothing else. However, this was not the end. While they were escaping, Lu Wu synchronized and shared their coordinates on the internet. This step was the final blow. The Light of Sun's personnel, who were devastated, began to throw away all their electronic products. They thought that the other party had located them through mobile phones and other electronic devices, so they even changed their escape route. However, they were still too naive. Even without these electronic devices, it was still too easy for Lu Wu to locate them with the artifact in hand. An inescapable net was formed. Relying on the location, the Light of Sun's personnel were found very quickly. However, they were found by a group of loyal fans of Battle Expedition. What came next was a brutal beating. After all, they had cheated the feelings of so many African players. How could they not be angry? They could not escape a brutal beating. Even if they wailed and begged for mercy, it would be of no use. After that, they were found by the African police with bruises all over their faces. No, it should be said that they were saved. At that time, many media outlets were present. They took many photos of their bruises, which made many African players feel better. Everything ended perfectly. However, just when Lu Wu thought that it was over, another wave of discussion was set off on the official website of Battle Expedition. Lion King of Africa. I don't believe that this is not the work of a dog official. Is this the power of black technology? Laughing emoji. Surely the underscore strongest. I think the dog official will never admit it. Laughing emoji. Crayon underscore Shinchan. Latest news. Something magical just happened. All the funds of the players who were cheated have been returned. Do you dare to say that this is not the work of a dog official? Slams the table emoji. Roasting underscore Jade underscore hair underscore Chong. The dog official is really awesome. I would believe it even if you told me that the dog official could invent the elixir of immortality. By the way, I want to reserve a bottle first. I want to play Battle Expedition for a lifetime. Laughing emoji. Lu Wu was speechless when he heard the comments of the players. After all, this was illegal. Although everyone was well aware of it, he still had to put on a show. Therefore, he immediately posted a post. Official announcement. Regarding the players' discussion of manipulating the money transfer and private positioning, Battle Expedition's official solemnly stated, "It has nothing to do with me." As soon as this announcement was posted, the players replied in unison, "Shameless thief, how dare you quibble?" Chapter 420. The Jinxiu Mountain of Chi Dragon. After the heavy rain, the road on the mountain was covered in mist. On both sides of the wet stairs, the lush leaves were still dripping with rain. It was a lively scene. In the Golden Bell Temple on the mountain, a handsome man dressed in monk attire was sitting on a cushion with his legs crossed. He put his palms together and listened to the lecture of an old monk in a kusaya beside him. Yuan Fong, this cultivation is ascetic. I won't give you any money when you leave the mountain. All the sufferings you go through will be the training of your Buddha nature. I hope you can comprehend Buddhism from it. Master, what about my meals? Yuan Fong raised his head in confusion. I'll give you the alms bowl. You can beg for alms yourself. What if others don't give me meals? Yuan Fong continued to ask. Then I'll go to another house. The old monk said calmly. What if I go to another house? At this moment, the veins on the old monk's forehead bulged. Ascetic cultivation requires you to face hunger, cold, and exhaustion. If you don't get food when you beg for alms, you can only endure it. Master, can I work when I'm hungry? Yuan Fong continued to ask. Work. At this moment, the old monk felt his blood pressure rising again. He quickly said Amitabha to calm himself down. No, Master, can I not go to ascetic cultivation? Yuan Fong asked pitifully. You're already an adult. Ascetic cultivation is the training of your mind. You can't just say no. If you return to the temple early, or if I find out that you broke the rules of ascetic cultivation, I'll kick you out. The old monk scolded with a frown. All right, Master, when is the meal? I'll eat more so that I don't starve. The old monk was speechless. The old monk felt extremely tired after taking in such a disciple. Other than eating and fighting, he had nothing else to do. In the afternoon, Yuan Fong, who still wanted to stay in the temple, was finally kicked out of the mountain. He began his year-long ascetic cultivation. At this moment, Yuan Fong held the alms bowl and went down the mountain dejectedly in his ascetic clothes. He was very familiar with the mountain path. He often went up and down the mountain with his senior and junior brothers to buy the resources needed by the temple. Usually, there were no visitors except for certain festivals. The winding path down the mountain took an hour before they reached the foot of the mountain. There was a small town not far from the foot of the mountain. Although the town was located in a remote area, the construction was very modern. The infrastructure was also very complete. A road extended from the town to the foot of the mountain. After looking left and right, Yuan Fong scratched his chubby head, not knowing where to go. In the end, he still decided to walk in the direction of the small town. There were many people there, so he should be able to eat there. After a few hours of traveling, Yuan Fong's stomach was rumbling with hunger. He started to miss the food in the temple. However, when he recalled the stern look his master had given him before he left, Yuan Fong gave up on the thought of returning. Although there were vehicles on the way, Yuan Fong didn't dare to hitch a ride. After all, his master had instructed him to only walk during the ascetic journey. Looking at the bowl in his hand, Yuan Fong rubbed his stomach and walked into the streets of the town. His appearance immediately attracted the attention of many people, because his attire was too conspicuous and it was incompatible with modern clothing. Walking on the street, Yuan Fong could smell the fragrance from the shops on both sides of the street, which made him hungry again. After thinking for a while, he walked into a restaurant. Yuan Fong walked to the cashier and placed the bowl on the counter. He looked at the dozing boss and said, "Boss, I'm begging for alms." The boss was immediately awakened. He opened his eyes and immediately saw Yuan Fong standing in front of him. "Boss, I'm begging for alms." Yuan Fong continued, "You're a real monk?" The boss was stunned. "Yes, my Dharma name is Yuan Fong." Yuan Fong nodded immediately. "You monks are so confident when begging for alms nowadays." The boss was a little dumbfounded when he saw the calm expression on Yuan Fong's face. "Boss, I want to eat this, and this." Yuan Fong didn't seem to hear the boss and pointed at the menu on the wall. The boss, "Brother, this is a small business. You can go to another one." At this moment, the boss decisively chose to chase his customer away. Yuan Fong couldn't help but frown when he heard that. "Boss, actually I can ask for less." At this moment, the veins on the boss's forehead were throbbing. He had already expressed his intentions so clearly. Why was this monk still so thick-skinned? "Little monk, this is really a small business. You should go to another one." After thinking about it, the boss still said, tactfully. This time, Yuan Fong didn't say anything else. He picked up the bowl on the counter, turned around, and walked out of the restaurant. As if he had thought of something, he suddenly turned around and said to the boss of the restaurant, "Buddha bless you!" Then he left without looking back. At this moment, the boss felt like he had been scolded, but he had no evidence. After leaving this restaurant, Yuan Fong went to another one and began a new round of begging. Yuan Fong's attitude towards begging for alms had always been the same. Boss begging. Righteous, neither overbearing nor servile. As a result, all of his attempts at soliciting alms failed. None of the restaurants were willing to give him food. This made Yuan Fong very vexed. The sky was gradually getting dark, but he was still hungry. He didn't even have a place to spend the night. At this moment, Yuan Fong's eyes lit up. He suddenly noticed a man with unkempt hair and a dirty face sitting in a corner not far away. At this moment, he was eating pancakes, one in his left hand and one in his right hand. He was eating happily, making Yuan Fong even hungrier. After thinking about it, Yuan Fong hurriedly took a few steps forward and walked to the man with unkempt hair. Benefactor, begging. The man who was eating the pancake widened his eyes as if he had choked. He couldn't help but start coughing. Then he hurriedly picked up the water bottle on the ground and poured it into his mouth. After regaining his composure, the man glared at Yuan Fong and said, "That's right. You're begging me?" Yuan Fong immediately nodded. "Yes. Do you know what I do for a living? I'm AF** king beggar. Doesn't your conscience hurt?" The beggar said in disbelief. "So what if I'm a beggar? Master said that all beings are equal, so everyone is equal," Yuan Fong said seriously. At this moment, the beggar was speechless. He felt that what the monk said did make sense. However, it was impossible for him to hand over the pancake in his hand. So he hurriedly said, "You're a kind-hearted monk. This is my dinner. If I share it with you, I'll have to go hungry tomorrow. You definitely can't bear to see that." Buddha once cut off his flesh to feed the eagle and sacrificed himself to feed the tiger. Benefactor, you're just giving me a piece of pancake. It's insignificant. If you go hungry tomorrow, it'll be a training for your mind. It'll be of great help to your future. At this moment, the beggar really wanted to punch Yuan Fong in the head and shout, "Training your ass! Get lost. I'm being polite to you, but you're really taking advantage of me? Don't disturb me while I'm eating the pancake. Get lost." At this moment, the beggar's expression instantly changed as he cursed angrily. Hearing this, Yuan Fong's expression didn't change. He said, "Buddha bless you," and turned to leave. "Bald donkey, may you die without descendants." Thinking that Yuan Fong was secretly cursing him, the beggar looked at Yuan Fong's back and cursed angrily. At this moment, Yuan Fong suddenly turned around and looked at the beggar with a solemn expression. It gave the beggar a fright, thinking that Yuan Fong was going to attack. "Benefactor, I'm a monk. What you said is very reasonable." With that said, Yuan Fong turned around calmly with an indifferent expression. However, the beggar was dumbfounded. At this moment, he suddenly felt that the monk's words seemed to make sense. After some thought, the beggar shouted at the departing Yuan Fong again, "May you have many children and grandchildren!" However, after saying that, the beggar was stunned again. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. Looking at the pancake in his hand, he suddenly lost his appetite. The sky had already darkened. Yuan Fong, who had failed to solicit alms again, walked to a stone bridge. He looked up at the starry sky and couldn't help but sigh. "I'm so hungry." Is this the suffering that Master was talking about? It's really too bitter. Master, I can't take it anymore. In Yuan Fang's opinion, the so-called suffering and hunger were equal signs. At this moment, a commotion suddenly came from afar. Then, a man appeared in Yuan Fang's sight, and behind him was a large group of people. Don't run! How dare you steal from me and seduce my sister? The man in the lead shouted at the man running in front of him with a ferocious expression. I'm not asleep. The man hurriedly shouted, You're courting death. At this moment, the bearded man in the lead became even more furious. The man who was running for his life was scared out of his wits when he saw this. He hurriedly sped up and arrived in front of Yuan Fang. When he saw that Yuan Fang was blocking his way, he immediately turned to the side and tried to pass by him. However, Yuan Fang blocked his way again and collided with him. Yuan Fang didn't take a step back, but the man fell to the ground with a thud. F***CK. The man hurriedly got up and glared at Yuan Fang, but he didn't attack. He wanted to run for his life again, but he was blocked by Yuan Fang again. Almsgiver, you stole something from others. You'd better return it. Master said that you have to correct your mistakes. Damn bald donkey, get lost. The man glared at Yuan Fang angrily and immediately raised his hand to smash Yuan Fang's chest. The punch landed squarely on Yuan Fang's chest, but Yuan Fang didn't move at all. However, the man cried out in pain and fell to the ground again. At this time, a large group of people arrived and surrounded Yuan Fang and the man. Monk, thank you very much, the man in the lead said with a smile. Then he walked to the man on the ground and reached out to grab his hair. Where's my glazed grass? Boss, I sold my soul coins. The man on the ground said with a sad face. What about the soul coins? I bought equipment. The man looked desperate. F***CK. You F***king know that the glazed grass was planted by me, but you still stole it. You're courting death. As he spoke, the man raised his hand and was about to slap him. However, before the slap landed, it was stopped by Yuan Fang. Monk, what are you doing? The bearded man couldn't help but frown. Almsgiver, it's not right to hit people. Monk, this is none of your business. Go away. He stole something from me, so I naturally have to teach him a lesson. As he spoke, the bearded man raised his hand again. However, this time he was stopped by Yuan Fang again. The bearded man was instantly displeased. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Yuan Fang say calmly, Almsgiver, hit him gently. Don't kill him, or else it'll be hard to deal with. At this moment, everyone around was stunned. They thought that Yuan Fang was going to stop them, but they didn't expect him to say such words. Out sure. The bearded man couldn't help but nod. Chapter 421. Under the desperate eyes of the man on the ground. Yuan Fang stood aside and watched him get beaten up. He even looked eager to try. After a round of beating, the bearded man waved his hand to stop his brothers. Then he walked up to Yuan Fang and said, I'm sorry. Monk, thank you so much. You're welcome. The Buddha said that persuading people to do good is a great virtue. Yuan Fang said in a tone that was neither arrogant nor humble. Hearing that, the dying man on the ground opened his eyes. At that moment, he really wanted to give Yuan Fang the middle finger. Why didn't you say that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda? Be **starred. Fake monk. Anyway, thank you very much. I'll remember this favor. My name is Wang Long, the owner of the Divine Dragon Fitness Club nearby. If you have any difficulties, you can look for me. After saying that, Wang Long patted Yuan Fang's right shoulder, then waved at his brothers, signaling them to leave. Wait, benefactor, I happen to have a problem. If you can help me, it will be a great virtue. Yuan Fang immediately called out to Wang Long, who was about to leave. Oh, what happened to you? Wang Long turned around and asked. I'm hungry. If it's possible, benefactor, do you want to give me some food? Yuan Fang's expression was indifferent when he said that. He was not embarrassed at all. Hearing that, Wang Long could not help but laugh. He thought it was something big, but it turned out that it was just a matter of having a meal. To him, it was not a big deal at all. Vegetarian or meat? Wang Long said with a teasing smile. I'm a monk, so I don't eat meat. I just want some simple vegetarian dishes. Yuan Fong answered seriously, his expression extremely solemn. This stunned Wang Long, and he quickly apologized. Originally, he just wanted to make a joke. After all, there were too many fake monks nowadays. However, it was obvious that Yuan Fong was not one of them. After a while, in a restaurant in the town, Wang Long looked at the more than 10 meat dishes on the table, and Yuan Fong, who was still ordering. He cursed in his heart. This B***starred monk is really good at pretending. Benefactor, it's about time. It's not good for digestion if you eat too much. After ordering, Yuan Fong put his palms together devoutly. Monk, aren't you a vegetarian? Wang Long couldn't help but ask. Almsgiver, please don't misunderstand. I'm doing this for your sake. I don't touch wine or meat. Master warned me many times before we left, so I don't dare to disobey him. Realizing that he had misunderstood again, Wang Long had an embarrassed look on his face. He felt extremely guilty and could not help but nod. Then let's eat. Yuan Fong nodded. Then he picked up his chopsticks and bowl. He chanted Amit Ba and reached for a bowl of vegetables with his chopsticks. Seeing this, Wang Long and the others also raised their chopsticks and prepared to eat. Immediately after that, they were dumbfounded because Yuan Fong's hand had turned into a phantom, dancing back and forth on the dining table rapidly. The food on the table began to fall at an extremely fast speed. F***CK. Seeing the scene, Wang Long could not help but curse. Benefactor, why aren't you eating? Yuan Fong suddenly put down his chopsticks and looked at Wang Long, looking at the messy dining table. Wang Long lamented in his heart. You eat, we're not hungry. If that's the case, then I won't stand on ceremony. Benefactors, please don't hold back. If you're hungry, you still have to eat. Your body is the capital to wholeheartedly pursue Buddhism. After saying that, Yuan Fong's hand shook again and quickly moved back and forth on the dining table. Looking at Yuan Fong, who looked like a hungry ghost, Wang Long sighed in his heart. Although this monk's behavior was very different from others, he was still quite an honest person. Seeing that the vegetables on the table were getting lesser and lesser, Wang Long was about to call for the waiter to add a few more dishes. At that moment, he suddenly realized that a piece of meat seemed to be missing from the plate of meat in front of him. His eyes immediately widened. Monk, you F***king eat meat. When he heard this, Yuan Fong suddenly stopped eating and looked up with an indifferent expression. Benefactor, I'm a Buddhist disciple. I don't eat meat. You must be mistaken. There was clearly a piece of pork rib in front of me. Why is it gone? Wang Long's eyes widened. Benefactor, you might be mistaken. I really don't eat meat. Yuan Fong shook his head again, denying it. Looking at the extremely sincere Yuan Fong, Wang Long was puzzled, but he still nodded. While Yuan Fong continued eating, this time, Wang Long stared at the few meat dishes on the table. He wanted to see if he had really seen wrongly or if the little monk was really secretly eating. A moment later, Wang Long slapped the table excitedly. Little monk, I really saw it clearly this time. You just ate meat. Yuan Fong stopped again and sighed helplessly. Benefactor, I really don't eat meat. I said, if you want to eat, then eat. Why are you pretending? It's not like I'm stopping you from eating. Wang Long couldn't help but glare. Benefactor, don't slander me. Meat is a taboo in Buddhism. Why would I break the precept? Yuan Fong let out a long sigh, looking innocent. This made Wang Long's eyes widen. Little monk, you really won't admit it? Oh, Amitabha. Since I didn't eat it, why should I admit it? You said it. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. After saying that, Wang Long called the waiter over and asked him to remove all the meat dishes. Little monk, it's not too late to regret it. I, Wang Long, am not a stingy person. It's just a meal. As long as you admit that you eat meat, I'll give you another table, Wang Long said while glaring. Benefactor, give me another table. However, it's not that I want to eat it. I know that you guys aren't used to eating vegetarian food, so I'm thinking for you. Yuan Fong put his palms together and said calmly, "What a shameless monk!" At this moment, whether it was Wang Long or the brothers he brought, the same thought emerged in their minds. Wang Long was about to continue speaking when suddenly there was a commotion outside the restaurant. He immediately turned his head and saw a group of people rushing over. Beside the leading man was the thief who had been beaten up by them. Realizing that they were not friendly, Wang Long gave his brothers at the table a look. Then they all stood up. The leading man also walked to the table at this moment. He looked at Wang Long and raised the steel pipe in his hand. "Wang Long, how dare you hit my brother? He stole from me. Can't I teach him a lesson?" Wang Long looked at the leading man and said coldly, "Isn't it just a game? Do you think you'll lose a piece of your flesh if something is missing in the game?" The leading man looked very angry at this moment. "Ask your brother how much the thing in the game is worth." Wang Long looked at the man who had been beaten up before and said, "How much?" At this moment, the leading man also frowned. "Not much. It's just a fourth-stage medicinal herb. It's only 180,000. However, it's still a loss for me to beat him up." Wang Long looked at the leading man coldly and said. Hearing this, the leading man immediately turned his head to look at his brother. When he found that his brother lowered his head and did not dare to answer, he knew that Wang Long was right. At this moment, his face became extremely ugly, and he felt a little embarrassed. "Wang Long, 180,000 yuan, right? I'll pay for it. However, I can't let you off the hook for beating up my brother," the leading man said in a deep voice. "What do you mean?" "What do I mean? It means that I'll pay you 180,000 yuan, but you'll also have to be beaten up," the leading man said with a gloomy face. "You try." Wang Long also glared at him, not giving in at all. The atmosphere was at daggers drawn at this moment. The two groups of people were ready to fight, and the restaurant owner standing in the distance was already frightened. At this moment, Yuan Fong's figure suddenly appeared between the two groups of people. He chanted, "Oh, Amitabha," and then said, "Donors, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Being competitive will eventually hurt you. Where did this crazy monk come from?" The leading man immediately waved his hand and slapped Yuan Fong's head. "Pa!" With a crisp sound, Yuan Fong stood there without any reaction, while the leading man subconsciously grabbed his trembling right hand. "Donor, have you vented your anger?" Yuan Fong said with a smile. "Vented my anger, my ass." The leading man felt a little embarrassed and immediately raised his foot to kick Yuan Fong's chest. This time, Yuan Fong still did not dodge and took the kick head-on. However, there was no change in his expression. Instead, the leading man took a few steps back. F***CK. Seeing that the little monk was beaten because of him, Wang Long couldn't help but grab the chair next to him and was ready to fight. "Donor, don't be impulsive. They have a lot of people. You'll be at a disadvantage if you really fight. Let me do it." Yuan Fong immediately stopped Wang Long, then turned to the leading man and said with a smile, "Donor, don't be impulsive. Let's go out and settle this. A shop owner needs to do business too." The leading man looked at Yuan Fong with a livid face. The slap and kick just now made him feel like he had hit an iron block. The monk was fine, but he was in so much pain, which was really embarrassing. However, he still nodded. Then the two groups of people walked out of the restaurant under the surprised look of the restaurant owner. After coming outside, the two groups of people walked for a while and came to an open space. Yuan Fong stopped and turned to look at the leading man with a smile. "Donor, how do you want to solve it?" "How?" I said, "I'll pay for it. But my brother was beaten, so Wang Long has to suffer too." Wang Long took a step forward and said sternly, "You can try." "Hey, donors, it's not a big deal. How about this? I'll take the beating for this donor and let it go. No, I'm not afraid of him. Wang Long immediately said, Donor, you have to believe me. I'm a martial monk of the Golden Bell Temple. It's normal for me to be beaten. I'll be fine. Yuan Fong immediately stopped Wang Long. Little monk, why are you so stupid? They have steel pipes. No matter how good you are at taking the beating, can you withstand it? I can withstand it. I've been beaten by my senior and junior brothers since I was a child. Naturally, steel pipes are nothing to me. Yuan Fong continued to smile. Monk, you're really stupid. How can this be the same? At least your senior and junior brothers know what they're doing. They don't care about this. Wang Long couldn't help but scold. Hearing this, Yuan Fong's expression turned into one of astonishment. At this moment, he suddenly thought of the crazy things his senior brothers had done in order to let him practice the infinite Maha. He suddenly felt a little sad. Throwing me into a pot of boiling oil and cooking me on fire for a night is knowing what to do. Locking me in a water dungeon, filling me with water, and holding my breath for several hours is knowing what to do. Making me be the first to get up in the morning and hit my head against the clock is knowing what to do. Yuan Fong still remembered clearly that his senior brother once said that if there was a chance, it would be great to get an AK. When that time came, he would take advantage of Yuan Fong sleeping to shoot him with a magazine of bullets. Chapter 422. Thinking back to his experience in Golden Bell Temple, Yuan Fong suddenly felt extremely sad. He really regretted it. Actually, Yuan Fong didn't have this invincible body since he was young, nor was it something he had cultivated. Yuan Fong still remembered clearly that he was only 6 years old back then. Because he didn't memorize Buddhist scriptures properly, he was punished by his master to not eat dinner. In the end, Yuan Fong was awakened by hunger at night. He began to wander around the temple in search of food. As a result, he inexplicably entered an old room in the back mountain of the temple. After rummaging inside, he found several golden elixirs in a box on the altar. Yuan Fong, who was already red with hunger, didn't hesitate and swallowed all the golden pills. However, not long after he swallowed them, he felt intense pain all over his body and fainted. When Yuan Fong woke up the next day, he was shocked to find the senior monks of the temple surrounding him with terrified expressions. Later, Yuan Fong found out that he had swallowed the saraira of the founder of Golden Bell Temple. That was also the first time he was beaten up, and it was by all the senior monks of the temple. However, it was also because of that beating that the senior monks of Golden Bell Temple noticed that Yuan Fong's body seemed to be different. It had become extremely tough. Yuan Fong was fine after the beating, but the senior monks' hands were all swollen. In the end, they checked the ancient records and found out that Yuan Fong might have inherited the great divine power of the founder monk, Ku immeasurable. From the records, they also learned that this divine power had a lot of room for improvement. It could also be used to resonate with the Buddhist Dharma and attain the great Tao. However, according to the records, there was only one way to improve Ku immeasurable, and that was to temper the body and constantly challenge the limits of the body. Therefore, to help Yuan Fong improve, Golden Bell Temple set up an intensive training program that lasted for more than 10 years. During this period, the senior and junior brothers who were the main force claimed that it was for Yuan Fong's good, but in fact, it was all kinds of torture. At first, it was fine. The senior and junior brothers only used rods to beat his body, but gradually they realized that rods had no effect on Yuan Fong, so they decided to change the method of tempering from then on. Yuan Fong felt that his senior and junior brothers were on a path of no return. They were becoming less and less human. Therefore, in Yuan Fong's opinion, being beaten with a rod was basically something that his senior and junior brothers could do. Was it a big deal? Was it? Thinking of this, Yuan Fong looked up at Wang Long and said, "Benefactor, I think that compared to our fellow brothers and sisters, they are quite capable." After saying that, Yuan Fong pointed at the other party. Wang Long. At that moment, he felt that the monk was hopeless. Wouldn't he be satisfied if he didn't get a beating? Monk, Wang Long still wanted to say something, but Yuan Fong stopped him. Almsgiver, a monk doesn't lie. Just watch. If you think I can't hold on any longer, just help me. Yuan Fong took a few steps forward and stopped in front of the leader of the group. Almsgiver, come. I'm ready. Monk, it's none of your business. The leader of the other party couldn't help but frown. To be honest, he was just trying to save face this time. He knew that the monk had nothing to do with this matter, so he couldn't bear to attack the monk. Benefactor, it's fine. As long as you're happy, Yuan Fong said with a faint smile. Monk, do you really want to get involved in this? At this moment, he could not make a move. After all, there were so many brothers watching. But if he made a move, he would feel uneasy. Buddha bless you. Shall I bless you? At that moment, the man standing next to the leader, who was beaten up by Wang Long and the others, suddenly raised a steel pipe and swung it at the monk's head. At that moment, he was still full of resentment toward the monk. If it weren't for the monk, he wouldn't have suffered such a beating. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. Yuan Fong's shiny head didn't leave any mark. Instead, the man who attacked was so shocked that his hand went numb and the steel pipe fell out of his hand. Monk! At that moment, Wang Long couldn't help but step forward. At that moment, Yuan Fong turned around calmly and winked at Wang Long. I'm fine, but this benefactor's hand seems to be bleeding. When Wang Long heard that, he couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. He turned his head and immediately found that the man's hand had split open and a trace of red was dripping down his palm. The leader was also dumbfounded when he saw that. Looking at Yuan Fong's shiny head, everyone was shocked at that moment. Monk, have you practiced martial arts? The leader looked fearful at that moment. Obviously, he knew that the monk was not someone to be trifled with. No, I haven't. Yuan Fong shook his head frankly. What do you mean? The leader's face was gloomy. He thought that Yuan Fong was unwilling to tell the truth and looked down on him. A monk does not lie. Although I am a martial monk, my master has never allowed me to practice martial arts. Under normal circumstances, I am only a human pillar for my fellow martial brothers in the academy, Yuan Fong replied with a serious expression. Human support? The leader was stunned. It's a sparring partner, the kind where you're not allowed to fight back. In other words, you get beaten. Yuan Fong continued to answer. Hearing that, everyone present looked stunned. The leader also thought of Yuan Fong's previous attack in the restaurant and found that the monk's body was as hard as iron. Are you sure you can withstand it? At that moment, the leader suddenly had an idea. In fact, he just wanted to stand up for his disappointing younger brother. However, since he had already brought his brothers here, he naturally couldn't just leave like that. Besides, he didn't really want to have an irreconcilable fight with Wang Long. In the end, he just wanted to save face. Therefore, if the monk could really withstand it, then he didn't need to feel guilty, and he didn't need to completely break up with Wang Long. He could just leave. I can do it. Yuan Fong nodded again. Brothers, since someone has come forward and is willing to bear it, then let him take it for Wang Long. Let's do it. As he said that, the leader took the lead and smashed the steel pipe toward Yuan Fong's right arm. However, he subconsciously held back. Wang Long, who was standing not far away, felt his heart tighten again. When he was about to step forward, he saw Yuan Fong winking at him. Bang! The steel pipe hit Yuan Fong's right arm, but naturally it didn't cause any damage. Benefactor, in fact, you can use a little more force. It's fine as long as you can vent your anger, Yuan Fong said with a smile. These words sounded good at first, but when he thought about it, he suddenly felt uncomfortable. It was as if he was saying, don't worry. Didn't you eat? Monk, you said it yourself. At that moment, the leader's eyes became fierce. He immediately swung the steel pipe and smashed it again. Seeing this, the younger brothers behind also stepped forward, surrounded the monk, and smashed him with the steel pipe. The sound of metal colliding kept ringing. but Yuan Fong stood calmly on the spot, as if he wasn't the one being beaten. 5 minutes later, the few of them were panting and looking at Yuan Fong in disbelief. "Benefactor, why did you stop?" The leader's mouth twitched. At that moment, he really couldn't move. What kind of monster was this? Was it made of metal? Thinking of this, he said with a bitter face, "It's about time." Then he turned his head and looked at Wang Long. "Wang Long, I'll send you the 180,000 yuan. We're even." Wang Long nodded with a gloomy face. He knew that if it wasn't for the monk, he would definitely be beaten up. After saying that, the leader waved his hand and signaled for them to leave. Wait. At that moment, Yuan Fong stopped the few people who were about to leave. "Monk, we really can't fight anymore." The leader turned around, feeling extremely helpless in his heart. "No, since the grudge between you and this monk has been written off. The grudge between this monk and this monk hasn't been settled." Saying that, Yuan Fong pointed at the leader's younger brother. "What do you mean?" The leader suddenly frowned. "You hit me because I wanted to repay the grudge on behalf of Benefactor Wang Long and the others. This beating has written off the grudge between you, and this is naturally a clean slate. However, the grudge between me and your younger brother hasn't been settled yet. I tried to persuade him to be kind, but he refused to admit his mistake. Instead, he was resentful and wanted to take revenge. So this is a grudge between this monk and him." Hearing that, the leader's younger brother's face turned pale. At that moment, in his opinion, this monk was simply a monster. If this monk really wanted to take revenge on him, it would really be over. Even his elder brother might not be able to protect him. Then what do you want? The leader's face was livid. Although he knew that it was his younger brother's fault, he couldn't ignore it. "Don't worry, this monk is not a person who hates evil. Moreover, before I left, Master told me that if I encountered injustice, I must not fight and must be calm. So what do you want?" The leader frowned. "Let him continue hitting me with the steel pipe until I'm satisfied." Hearing that, everyone was dumbfounded. This monk was really addicted to being beaten. His method of revenge was actually to let others continue beating him. Before Master left, he repeatedly reminded me not to use force to convince others. So I can't do anything. This is all I can do." Yuan Fong chuckled. At that moment, the leader felt extremely conflicted. However, if he were to leave just like that, he was really afraid that he would offend such a terrifying monk and be secretly taken revenge on in the future. After thinking about it, he looked at his disappointing younger brother, who was always causing trouble outside. He couldn't help but glare. "Did you hear that? This is your own mistake. Do the same. Brother my ass. I asked you to beat people, not to be beaten." The leader couldn't help but glare as he handed the steel pipe in his hand over. The man had no choice but to take the steel pipe with his uninjured hand. Then he turned his gaze to Yuan Fong. "You're not allowed to fight back. This monk won't fight back. Come on." Gritting his teeth, the man raised the steel pipe and took a step forward, swinging it at Yuan Fong. "Pung! Pung! Pung!" After a round of beating, the man said while panting, "Monk, is that enough?" Yuan Fong said calmly, "Continue." Pung! 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 After another round of beating, the man's face turned pale and the web between his thumb and index finger cracked again. However, he still didn't get Yuan Fong's consent. He could only raise the steel pipe again with trembling hands. Half an hour later, the man was covered in sweat and was on the verge of collapsing. He couldn't even hold the steel pipe firmly. The recoil from every swing caused him to feel a sharp pain in his palm. At that moment, he felt like his body was falling apart. He had no strength at all. Thud! The man fell to the ground and the steel pipe fell out of his hand. He fainted from exhaustion. "Monk, is that enough?" The leader hurriedly went forward and said, "It's enough. That's enough. The grudge between me and him has been settled." Yuan Fong finally said with a smile, At that moment, the leader couldn't hate him even if he wanted to. After all, this monk didn't do anything from the beginning to the end. Although it was the first time he saw such a method of revenge, he still felt that this monk was 2F** King ruthless. Chapter 4:23. After the troublemakers left, Wang Long stared at Yuan Fang in disbelief. After all, in this materialistic era, the monk's ability was somewhat unscientific. However, in this era of information explosion, people were still very receptive to special things. At this moment, Wang Long had already regarded Yuan Fang as a hidden expert in reality. "Monk, what kind of kung fu is that?" At this moment, Wang Long suddenly felt a little itchy. "It's not kung fu. According to Master, it's a supernatural power." Yuan Fang explained seriously. "Supernatural power? Sai, no matter what it is, can I practice it?" Wang Long asked eagerly. "Almsgiver, Master, and senior brothers have already studied this point. It's not possible." "Then how did you practice it?" Wang Long's eyes widened. "I ate it," Yuan Fang answered truthfully. Wang Long was stunned on the spot. He couldn't help but think of the monk eating like a tornado. "Well, benefactor, our fate has come to an end. Let's part ways here. I'm going to continue my cultivation." At this time, Yuan Fang smiled, turned around, and walked away. Seeing this, Wang Long quickly called out to Yuan Fang. "Monk, do you have a place to stay tonight? Why don't you stay at my place?" "Benefactor, you're too polite. I don't need it. Master said that ascetic practice is to wander the world without a fixed residence. There are many days when the sky is my back and the earth is my bed. One night won't make a difference," Yuan Fang said without looking back. Then he gradually walked away from Wang Long and the others. Looking at Yuan Fang's back, Wang Long was very surprised at this moment. In fact, in the beginning, he had a very good impression of this monk. Not everyone was willing to stand up for injustice. However, when he was in the restaurant, he felt that the monk's image had collapsed. He actually stole the meat. He was simply a fake monk. However, later on, he felt that this monk was indeed very capable. When he said that he wanted to resolve the grudge, he just wanted to teach that person a lesson and a warning. He didn't really want to take revenge. Wang Long could see that. After all, with the monk's ability, it was too easy for him to take revenge. What Wang Long found most interesting was that the monk remained unfazed by honor or disgrace. Apart from the occasional black-bellied behavior, he did indeed have the demeanor of an expert. However, since the monk was unwilling, he didn't force it. He waved his hand and left with his brothers. It was already late at night, but the town was still brightly lit. Yuan Fang once again walked to the stone bridge that he had walked on before, then followed the stairs to the bottom of the stone bridge. At the bottom of the dried-up river, there was a litter of puppies huddled together, hugging each other for warmth. Yuan Fang's arrival alarmed them, and they immediately raised their heads and started howling. Yuan Fang smiled faintly and stepped forward. With a wave of his sleeve, several pieces of flesh fell off. Smelling the fragrance of the meat, these hungry puppies immediately pounced on the meat and began to fight for food. Just like that, Yuan Fang looked at them until they finished eating. Only then did he mutter, "Oh, Amitabha, Buddha bless you." Then he turned around and left. "If you do one good deed a day, you will have 3,000 merits." Yuan Fang couldn't help but smile as he walked. Although he could eat a lot, he never broke his commandments, even if he really wanted to eat. Among the 10 commandments of killing, stealing, lust, ignorance, drunkenness, greed, anger, infatuation, and infatuation, eating meat was closely related to killing. However, Yuan Fang's obsession with eating meat was too deep, and it was the only taboo that required him to restrain himself with all his might. However, no matter how much he wanted to eat meat, Yuan Fang had never broken his commandments. Although he had almost eaten meat once in his early years, his master had almost passed away that time. The reason was that he had fainted from exhaustion when he was beating him up, and he had only woken up after a whole day. Since then, Yuan Fong was afraid that his master would beat him again, and his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. Therefore, he restrained himself and never touched meat again. Although he was now in the outside world, Yuan Fong still restrained himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but it was out of respect for his master. Just now, when Wang Long treated him to a meal, although he ordered a lot of meat, he didn't touch it at all. He just looked at it and took some with him to feed the puppies under the stone bridge. The lights in the small town gradually went out, and the surroundings became dark. Except for the bright moonlight and the stars in the sky, the surroundings gradually fell into silence. Occasionally, dogs barked and wild cats hissed. At this time, Yuan Fong randomly found a place and sat down cross-legged. With the Mako golden body, for Yuan Fong, the so-called heat and cold did not exist. It didn't matter where he slept. At most, he just wanted to comfort himself mentally. Gradually, his thoughts became scattered, and the night passed without a word. The next morning, the rising sun shone on his face, waking Yuan Fong up from his deep sleep. When he opened his eyes, Yuan Fong's first thought was, "I'm so hungry, I'm going to starve to death. Master, it's really hard to cultivate. I'm going to starve to death. The temple should have started eating by now. I miss the food in the vegetarian hall." He hadn't felt this kind of hunger in a long time. As for the reason, Yuan Fong suspected that it was because he had eaten too little last night. It wasn't like the temple, where 3 meals a day were punctual and he was always full. "I can't take it anymore. I'm going to beg for alms." The famished Yuan Fong immediately got up, walked across the stone bridge, and walked towards the crowded area. After taking a few steps, Yuan Fong suddenly stopped in his tracks. This was because he saw the familiar beggar again. He was holding a biscuit and eating it. "I really want to eat it." After some thought, Yuan Fong couldn't help but take a few steps forward. "Patron!" bawled Donkey, "get lost. I'm not giving." Realizing that it was the monk again, the beggar immediately glared and grabbed his biscuit tightly. "All right, Buddha bless you." Yuan Fong decisively turned around and walked towards his next target, the beggar. From Yuan Fong's point of view, begging for alms was also dependent on fate. Moreover, all living beings were equal, so his attitude was neither overbearing nor servile. Therefore, just like the day before, after several hours, he still hadn't received any food. At this moment, Yuan Fong really felt that he was going to die. Although he wanted to be strong, this huge threat didn't come from the outside, but from within. Even with the Mako golden body, he couldn't resist it. This was the punishment of hunger. "I'm going to die," this thought emerged in Yuan Fong's mind. Feeling that he was getting weaker and weaker, Yuan Fong couldn't help but find a corner, sit cross-legged, and began to meditate, trying to suppress his fluctuating emotions. However, his mind couldn't help but think of the vegetarian dishes in the temple. Golden-rimmed cabbage, tofu with Chinese tofu, tofu with dried plum vegetables, eggplant with fried mushrooms, slurp. The more he thought about it, the hungrier he became. At this moment, Yuan Fong felt that this ascetic practice was too terrifying. He couldn't imagine how his senior brothers survived it. Wouldn't they starve to death? "Monk, what are you doing sitting here?" At this moment, a voice sounded in his ear. Yuan Fong immediately opened his eyes and found Wang Long standing in front of him. "Patron, I'm begging for alms." Yuan Fong raised his alms bowl with trembling hands. Looking at the monk, who looked very weak, Wang Long was stunned. "You're hungry again?" "Patron, I haven't had breakfast yet. Of course, I'm very hungry," Yuan Fong continued to speak weakly. "Don't you monks often go days without eating when you're cultivating? You haven't had breakfast yet. Why do you look like you're going to die?" Wang Long couldn't help but laugh. "Patron, don't talk nonsense. How can a person go a day without eating?" Yuan Fong looked stunned. "All right, monk, I'll take you to eat breakfast. There's a breakfast shop next door that sells pretty good pork dumplings. I'll take you there to try them," Wang Long said with a smile. Patron, I don't eat meat. Yuan Fang's eyes were filled with desire, but his voice was trembling as he refused. Monk, this is boring. You say you want to eat, so eat. You're going too far with this nonsense. Hearing Yuan Fang's words again, Wang Long couldn't help but stare at him. Patron, give me some vegetarian food. At this moment, Yuan Fang's eyes were filled with desire, but his words were still the same. All right. Wang Long nodded helplessly. Wang Long walked with Yuan Fang for a while. During this time, Yuan Fang's swaying appearance made Wang Long dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why this invincible monk looked like he was having too much sex today. He couldn't even stand steadily. When they arrived at the breakfast shop, Wang Long ordered some breakfast and then found a place to sit with Yuan Fang. Wang Long couldn't help but remind him, Monk, I know you can eat, so I ordered a lot. When the time comes, just eat as you like. Don't worry about me. By the way, I also ordered 2 sets of pork dumplings. Benefactor, the Buddhist Lord blesses you, Yuan Fang said gratefully. Soon, breakfast was served one by one, and Yuan Fang also started his sweeping mode. Although Wang Long had seen Yuan Fang act like a hungry ghost yesterday, he was still extremely shocked when he saw it again. He really had the aura of a wind, sweeping away the clouds and swallowing the mountains and rivers. However, this time, Wang Long was surprised to find that the monk really didn't touch the meat breakfast he ordered. After thinking about it, Wang Long thought that the monk was embarrassed. He silently pushed the dumplings forward and waited for the monk to eat. However, what he didn't expect was that although the monk looked at the dumplings with a face full of desire, he didn't eat them. Wang Long had no choice but to push the dumplings forward again. Patron, if you push it any further, you'll push it right in front of me, Yuan Fang said with slight resentment. Ahem, you really don't want to eat. I don't eat meat. Yuan Fang immediately nodded. Wang Long was speechless. This breakfast took a full hour, and Wang Long was shocked by Yuan Fang's appetite. He felt that even an elephant couldn't eat as much as this monk. When Yuan Fang was almost done eating, Wang Long finally spoke. Monk, you can eat so much. If you really rely on begging for alms to survive, you'll probably starve to death. Who can afford to support you? We're all doing business. If you eat once, everyone else's day's work will be in vain. After thinking about it, Wang Long couldn't help but say, How about you work at my gym? I'll provide you with food and drinks every day, but there's no salary. After thinking about it, Wang Long couldn't help but say, After all, the monk had done him a favor. A monk doesn't work. When Yuan Fang heard this, he replied seriously. This was what his master had reminded him many times before he left. Wang Long was speechless. You'll really starve to death if you don't work. Master said that even if I starve to death, I'm not allowed to work. At this moment, Wang Long suddenly felt very tired. It would be fine if it were a normal ascetic monk, begging for alms until a few steamed buns could last a day. However, with Yuan Fang's appetite, it was simply unrealistic for him to seek sponsored partnerships for free. He would probably eat until others went bankrupt. Therefore, for other monks, ascetic cultivation was just at the normal difficulty level. For a gluttonous like Yuan Fang, ascetic cultivation was definitely at the hellish difficulty level. This was because his begging was not called begging. It was robbing food stores. Chapter 4:24. However, he couldn't just ignore the monk. After all, he was indebted to the monk. Wang Long couldn't bring himself to let the monk starve to death outside. The problem was that this black-bellied monk didn't like to work. He really wanted to rely on begging for alms to get by. After thinking about it, Wang Long could only say, Monk, why don't you stay at my gym for a few days? I'll pay for your meals for the next few days. Master also said that I don't deserve a reward without doing anything. Yuan Fang rubbed his round belly and said, Your master wants to kill you. Wang Dalong couldn't help but widen his eyes. How can that be? Master is the closest person to me, Yuan Fong retorted with a serious face. Do you have any contact information for your master? Wang Long thought about it and asked. Yes, but I can't tell you. Monk, I'm trying to save you. You're not made for ascetic cultivation. You might as well go back. Wang Long couldn't help but persuade him. That's what I told Master, but he said that if I go back halfway, he'll expel me from the sect. If I don't go back now, I'll suffer for a year, but if I go back, I'll be banished forever. Wang Long couldn't help but sigh when he heard that. Your master really isn't much. He's on par with that dog of a government. He even threatened you with a permanent ban. How ruthless! Dog of a government. Yuan Fang's face revealed a curious look. Oh, it's fine. I'm talking about something else. As he spoke, Wang Long's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly said, Monk, does your master have any mandatory requirements for this ascetic cultivation? For example, how much distance to walk every day? Yuan Fang nodded. Master said that I have to walk all over the mountains and rivers to appreciate the scenery of the motherland. I have to walk as much as possible every day. Clap. Wang Long couldn't help but clap his hands. Monk, I know a place that's very suitable for you. The world there is very big. If you walk in it every day, you won't be able to reach the end. What kind of place are you talking about, benefactor? Can I eat my fill there every day? Yuan Fang was stunned when he heard that. It's not just filling your stomach. The spiritual ingredients, they're all very delicious. I guarantee that they are vegetarian dishes that you've never eaten before. Most importantly, you can use the spiritual ingredients there to exchange for food in the real world. Yuan Fang was dumbfounded. He could understand the first half of the sentence, but the latter half of the sentence can be exchanged for food in the real world, left him completely dumbfounded. What kind of place are you talking about? Yuan Fang scratched his head, subconsciously. Battle Online. It's a 100% realistic game. Aside from a different worldview, the reality is exactly the same. The items in the game are very valuable and can be exchanged for items of the same value in real life. Naturally, food is included, Wang Long said with a smile. Things in the game can be exchanged for food? Yuan Fang was even more confused now. It's not just food. A few days ago, a lifestyle player managed to cultivate a special spiritual material and traded it for a house in real life. Wang Long said with a hint of envy. But my master wants me to train hard. Isn't it inappropriate to play games? Yuan Fang was stunned. Sigh, playing games isn't a job. Moreover, you can train hard in the game too. The experience is exactly the same as in real life. Most importantly, it can guarantee that you won't starve to death. Wang Long said immediately. Is it really as magical as you say? Come with me. I'll bring you there to try. If you think it's not good enough, you can continue your training. You don't need a little more time anyway, Wang Long continued to persuade him. At this moment, Yuan Fang finally nodded. After Wang Long paid the bill, Yuan Fang followed Wang Long and began to walk toward his fitness club. Wang Long's gym was located in the center of the town. It was surrounded by a lot of people and occupied more than 600 square meters. Yuan Fang followed Wang Long into the gym and went up to the second floor. Along the way, he saw Wang Long greeting the people around him skillfully. After leading Yuan Fang into his room, Wang Long first made Yuan Fang a cup of tea. Then he pointed to the 3 black C gaming chambers in the office and said, These are the gaming chambers. If you want to enter Battle Online, you have to go through this kind of device. I bought 3 of them because sometimes my friends come over to play. If you think it's okay, I can let you use one. Yuan Fang learned how to use this kind of virtual device from Wang Long's explanation. After the explanation, Wang Long said again, Monk, go ahead and try it. If you're satisfied, you can stay. Don't say that you don't deserve a reward. This gaming chamber is rented to you. You can exchange it with something in the game. Yuan Fang could not help but nod when he heard that. At this moment, his heart was filled with curiosity. Because Wang Long's explanation was too incredible, he could not believe it. However, he still wanted to give it a try. He stood up and walked to the front of the gaming chamber. He opened the door according to Wang Long's instructions and lay down sideways. "Monk, I'll add you as a friend when we enter the game. When we meet, I'll tell you some basic knowledge about the game." Hearing this, Yuan Fong nodded, then pressed the start button. The opened cabin door was immediately lowered and the water level rose. Seeing this, Wang Long also opened a gaming cabin and lay down in it. 10 minutes later, Yuan Fong entered the game after going through the opening cinematics and choosing his character. Due to the explosion of the Mansion of the Dead, Lu Wu locked the starting point of the newbie players near the Liuli coast for their protection. At this moment, the area where Yuan Fong was located was the seaside. Looking around, Yuan Fong was stunned because everything around him was too real, so real that there were no flaws. The sea breeze caressed his face, the seabirds soaring in the sky, and the crashing sound of the waves hitting the beach. It was a completely immersive experience, and he did not feel uncomfortable at all. "Oh, Amit Ba!" Yuan Fong could not help but put his palms together and chanted, "Beep beep." At this moment, the friend list appeared and a friend request popped up. "Player Wang Long is requesting to add you as a friend. Do you accept?" Wang Long had already informed Yuan Fong, so he was not surprised and immediately chose to accept. At this moment, Wang Long's call request popped up again. "Friend Wang Long has chosen to talk to you. Do you accept?" "Accept." After the conversation was connected, Wang Long's voice appeared. "Monk, where are you? Use the method I told you before to share your coordinates with me. I'll be right there." Hearing this, Yuan Fong scanned the function panel and finally found the icon that Wang Long mentioned. He then sent his coordinates over. "I'm also near the Liuli coast, not far from you. Stand there and wait for me." Hearing this, Yuan Fong waited patiently. During this period, his eyes would occasionally look at the battleships that had returned from the sea and the players who were standing by the shore and chatting. It was a novel experience. This was his first time seeing the sea. To be precise, it was his first time seeing it with his own eyes. A moment later, Wang Long, clad in armor, appeared in the distance and quickly ran to his side. "Monk, how do you like it? Am I handsome?" Wang Long pointed at his armor and grinned. "Giver, this place is amazing." Yuan Fong said sincerely, "There's something even more amazing. This is for you. Try it," Wang Long said as he took out a red fruit from the channel and handed it over. "What is this?" Yuan Fong could not help but ask. "Just eat it. See if I'm fooling you," Wang Long said with a smile. Yuan Fong had never refused to eat. Moreover, it was not meat, so eating it was not a taboo. Therefore, he took the fruit and took a bite. The moment it entered his mouth, the flesh of the fruit broke down and overflowed with a huge amount of spiritual energy. It began to stimulate and tease his taste buds. This was a feeling that Yuan Fong had never experienced before. The pores all over his body seemed to open up and breathe in and out the spiritual energy. The rich fruit fragrance lingered at the tip of his nose for a long time. What fruit is this?" Yuan Fong's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. His body was actually breathing after eating the fruit. Wang Long thought that Yuan Fong was talking about the taste of the fruit and could not help but grin. "This is a level 1 spiritual material fruit that I cultivated. The taste is not bad. There are so many delicious fruits in this world that you can't even imagine. Are you tempted?" Wang Long was not bragging. The spiritual materials in the underworld were all nourished by spiritual energy. They were the ultimate delicacies that could not be experienced in the human world during the age of chaos. There's something even more delicious. At this moment, Yuan Fong's eyes widened even more. For a foodie like him, this sentence was too lethal. It was so lethal that he immediately decided that he wanted to stay in this world and eat all the spiritual materials and fruits. "All right, eat it. I have more after you finish eating." This world is not ordinary. There are more good things waiting for you to explore. Yuan Fong laughed when he heard that. He immediately stuffed the fruit into his mouth. The rich spiritual energy reverberated again, causing Yuan Fong to squint his eyes. He felt that it was a double enjoyment for both the taste and the body. Seeing that the monk had finished eating, Wang Long suddenly chuckled. "Monk, do you believe that you can't beat me here?" Hearing that, Yuan Fong was stunned. "Almsgiver, I don't like to fight. No, I mean I can hurt you here." "Hurt me?" Yuan Fong finally understood what Wang Long was talking about. Just as he was about to reply, he suddenly felt his body sink. The spiritual energy, still reverberating in his body, seemed to have triggered something, and a muffled sound came from his body. Then his body began to tremble violently. Under the boiling of his blood and qi, his tendons and bones sounded at the same time, and his body began to crackle nonstop. F***CK, monk, what's wrong with you? Wang Long was stunned. Yuan Fong was also dumbfounded. He did not know what was wrong with him, but he felt comfortable all over, as if some shackles had been broken at this moment. At this moment, the game notification sounded. Server announcement. Congratulations to player Yuan Fong for comprehending the passive, active skill, Naraka Dao 9 Ultimate Path, Infinite Moke. While Yuan Fong was stunned, the skill analysis interface suddenly popped up in front of him. Naraka Dao 9 Ultimate Path, Infinite Moke. Skill details. Naraka Dao, the power of the ultimate path. After successful cultivation, the player's physique will undergo a huge change and obtain infinite moke. As the infinite moke grows, the player will develop a variety of derivative skills of the ultimate Path 9. Cultivation progress. Infinite moke, basic, derivative skills. Infinite moke, level 1, 0/10,000. Skill introduction, passive skill. After cultivating the infinite moke, the physical body will receive a fixed damage reduction of 500 points, 55% resistance to damage exceeding the limit, maximum damage reduction of 3,000 points. Growth potential. Skill growth. Every time the physical body receives damage, this skill will automatically gain the corresponding growth proficiency. Next unlocked ability. Fixed damage reduction increased by 300 points. Damage reduction increased by 5%. Maximum damage reduction increased by 2,000 points. Health increased by 5%. Additional passive skill, immovable golden body. Infinite moke, level 1, 0/10,000. Skill introduction. All melee damage received will be reflected by 15% of the damage. Maximum damage reflected is 2,000. Growth potential. Skill growth. Every time the physical body receives damage, this skill will automatically gain the corresponding growth proficiency. Next unlocked ability. Reflected damage increased by 3%. Maximum damage increased by 1,000 points. Additional passive skill, spell reflection. Skill brand. If I don't enter hell, who will? Taste the 18 paths of hell. I have my own infinite moke. When he heard the game notification, Wang Long could not help but widen his eyes. This can't be real, right? I just entered the game, and it's the Naraka Dao, which is the most difficult to learn at this stage, and it's the ultimate path. If he had not personally brought the monk into the game, Wang Long would have reported him for cheating. Chapter 4:25. At this moment, he could not hide his jealousy as he gazed into the distance. With the analysis menu, he had a clearer understanding of his own supernatural powers. After knowing that he could improve Mo. Ku Wuliang's cultivation by increasing his proficiency, he had a plan in mind. Of course, more importantly, it tasted amazing. He was definitely another wall-level player, a deadly nemesis of fragile players with high explosive power. There was only one person who had obtained such a powerful inheritance or skill since the beginning of the game, and that was Ao Jian. At this moment, Wang Long suddenly thought of the third Naraka that had recently appeared, the Prajna scarification of the ultimate path. Yuan Fong nodded in realization. Almsgiver, I'll head over now. Do you want to join me? Almsgiver, I don't kill. Yuan Fong was stunned. Monk, I'm so jealous, Wang Long said fiercely. Almsgiver, I understand. This change was normal for Lu Wu. There was no spiritual energy to nourish the body during the end of days, and Yuan Fong's body was being tempered every day. He did not have enough energy to replenish his body, so he could only rely on large amounts of food to replenish his severely depleted body. These are all evil creatures. I'm killing them to protect the Tao. How can you call it killing? Wang Long rolled his eyes. In this end of days, it was extremely difficult to master simple spells. It was even more difficult to master the power of the Naraka cultivation system. It was almost impossible, not to mention the ultimate power, the ultimate path. The players on the forum were also full of resentment. They could not understand why the player did not come out to show off. Monk. Wang Long shook his head helplessly and said, Monk, this thing has a unified name in the game. It's called spiritual material. It's a spiritual plant in the game world. It's hard to say where it's produced, but in short, it can appear anywhere. It depends on luck. Of course, now that there's an alchemist profession, many alchemists cultivate low-level spiritual materials. You can also buy them from them using soul coins. Soul coins can be obtained by killing monsters, selling equipment, etc. At this moment, he could already imagine that the monk with such abilities would soon become famous in the Battle League. At his current stage, his strongest skill could only deal around 650 damage, and this was under the situation where he didn't take defense into account. However, when Lu Wu saw the young Yuan Fong swallow the Saraira of the founding monk, his heart sank. This guy is so hungry that he can't be choosy. As the saying goes, adding flowers to embroidery is not as good as providing timely help. At this moment, the monk hasn't risen to prominence yet. I should take this opportunity to cling onto his thigh and follow him in the future. TSK, how wonderful. This was because this was the spiritual medicine that truly matched the consumption of his body. It instantly awakened the MO-ku potential in his body, awakening a more complete MO, cause a measurable body than it was in reality. Yuan Fong couldn't help but shake his head when he heard that. Benefactor, just a taste is enough. I've said before that I don't accept undeserved rewards. You've given me a taste, and I'll gladly accept it. However, I can't be greedy and ask for more. That's against the Buddhist Dharma. Thank you, almsgiver. Yuan Fong suddenly bowed to Wang Long with a solemn expression. That's easy. Head west of the Liuli coast. There are many wild beasts in the Liuli district, such as zombie wolves. You can go there to increase your proficiency and also level up. At this moment, Wang Long's eyes were red. He had been working hard in the game for half a year, but he had only reached level 100. He didn't even pass the Ghost Commander trial. His biggest opportunity was finding a 3 square meter spiritual field. Yet this monk had so easily obtained the top-notch ability that he had been dreaming of. How could this be? At the same time that the server announcement rang, Lu Wu, who was behind the scenes, was also shocked. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong looked at Wang Long and said, looking at the calm monk, Wang Long suddenly had the urge to cling onto his thigh. Then, the two started to walk toward the Liuli district. Moreover, Yuan Fong was a monk, so he could only eat vegetables. He couldn't eat meat, which was more nutritious. In the end, he could only rely on eating more meals every day to stabilize the consumption of his body. What the F***, monk? How did you do it? Wang Long was extremely shocked. What would happen if the monk's immeasurable body encountered the prajna scarification? However, what made Yuan Fong feel helpless was that the way to cultivate the immeasurable body was no different from the way it was in reality. He still had to be beaten up. This was the only way to hone his body and increase the proficiency of his supernatural power. 500 damage reduction. One had to know that the relic was a crystallized product of his ancestors' nirvana cremation. Wouldn't it be disgusting to eat it? Pfft, that's for sure. Without me, you would have starved to death. Wang Long grinned. Monk, what do you mean by this? I'm going to report you for cheating. Wang Long looked jealous. Hearing this, Yuan Fong did not hide it. He immediately opened the attribute panel according to Wang Long's instructions and shared it with Wang Long Monk. I'll rebound again. What nonsense is this? I don't understand at all. Wang Long was dumbfounded. When he realized that it was a level 0 newbie who had mastered the ultimate power of the Naraka realm, he couldn't help but be stunned. By the way, almsgiver, where did you get this fruit? Yuan Fong asked. This was because this fruit could actually produce a reaction with his body. Moreover, after eating the fruit, the burden on his body instantly disappeared. This feeling of relaxation that he had never felt before was unbelievable. Even so, this kind of supplement was not enough. It was a little too much. If this skill hit the monk, it would reduce the fixed damage reduction by 500. In addition to the 55% damage reduction, it meant that he could only deal 82. 5 damage at most. Moreover, the monk had a 15% damage reflection on all damage. Seeing this, Wang Long was stunned. Monk, rebound, ineffective, damage reduction. He subconsciously took out a small notebook and wrote down Yuan Fong's name. After thinking about it, he put a parenthesis next to it and marked it with the word, bald donkey. Let's go together. I have nothing to do now. Wang Long grinned. Wang Long was speechless. At this moment, Wang Long was extremely frustrated. The monk was already so scary at level 0. He couldn't imagine how scary the monk would become when he leveled up. He was practically a walking meat tank. Fight my ass. I don't want to fight anymore. Wang Long said resentfully. However, he had to admit that these abilities were indeed terrifying. They were really exclusive to the wall. From that moment on, Yuan Fong transformed from a glutton into a glutton with a huge appetite. Jealousy. Extreme jealousy. What was even more unbelievable was that this player named Yuan Fong had already mastered the power of the Naraka realm in real life. His method of obtaining opportunities was completely different from the other players. However, Lu Wu also knew that Yuan Fong did not cultivate the supernatural power of infinite moke. Instead, he ate the essence of the relic that was branded after the elder ancestors' nirvana. That was how he mastered the power of infinite moke. If you want, I can give you a few more. I still have some here. Wang Long was shocked. Monk, do you want to see the effect of your own skill? That meant that if his ultimate skill hit the monk, he would have to suffer more damage than the monk. At this moment, an image emerged in Wang Long's mind. Yuan Fong was extremely eager for this kind of fruit that was filled with spiritual energy. Almsgiver, do you still want to fight? Yuan Fong asked expectantly. At this moment, he really wanted to know how his skill proficiency would increase when he was beaten. Yuan Fong could not help but nod when he heard that. Is there any justice in this world? However, this stupid monk was even more terrifying. He had only been in the game for about half an hour, and he had already automatically mastered one of the top skills at this stage. This kind of ability was indeed a little scary to him. Not only was it immune to damage, but could also reflect damage. Didn't that mean that as long as one's health was high enough, the reflected damage could kill someone? At first, he thought that since he was in the game, he would be no match for the monk, no matter how powerful he was in real life. Who knew that this bastard monk would use a cheat the moment he entered the game, leaving no way out? Monk, you haven't told me what effect your ability has. Hurry up and show it to me. Wang Long, who was curious, finally could not hold it in any longer. He wanted to take this opportunity to hone his supernatural power according to his master's instructions. He wanted to cultivate it to the highest level and get a glimpse of the path of Buddhism. After reading the skills introduction, Wang Long could not help but widen his eyes. What they did not know was that after the server announcement appeared, the Battle Official Forum was already in an uproar. Players were asking about the new player who obtained this skill, and were even more curious about the effect of this skill. However, there was no response for a long time. At this moment, Lu Wu was extremely curious. He immediately used the artifact to analyze this player's information and looked through his life story. What a childish scene! Wang Long was speechless. Yuan Fong chuckled and did not say anything. Almsgiver, it's okay if you don't understand. All you need to know is that I owe you a great favor. Yuan Fong chuckled. Yuan Fong had heard about the problem of soul coins from Wang Long before he entered the game. Naturally, he was familiar with it. He could not help but nod. In the outside world, Yuan Fong's body was always hungry. However, it was different in the game. He would feel unprecedentedly relaxed because this was where he should be. At this moment, the monk was thinking about something completely different. However, Ao Jian had also challenged swordsmen everywhere in the game before he was recognized by the inheritance. When the caster of this ability was in the state of being possessed by the Prajna Devil Buddha, the damage he received would also be reflected to the opponent. Monk, reflect! What the F***CK? This ability of yours is too scary. Reflect damage and damage immunity. When you grow stronger, it will come with all kinds of skills. You're only at level 0. Then he quickly opened the artifact and began to check the details. Chiu, super reflect. In other words, if Yuan Fong did not eat for a day, there was a high chance that he would starve to death. Chiu, I'm injured. Prajna scarification. I will also reflect. Almsgiver, didn't you say that you wanted to hurt me? Do you want to try it now? Yuan Fong raised his head and said, The mysteries of this game seem to be even more mysterious than what you've described. Master once told me that I should focus on cultivating the infinite Mo-ku and explore the path that the ancestral monk once walked. In the future, I should cultivate this divine power to the extreme and attain the great path of Buddhism. However, I don't know anything about this. But now I think I know what to do. This place can help me cultivate the infinite Mo-ku. At this moment, Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. He felt that this new player was quite pitiful. However, he had stumbled upon an opportunity because what Yuan Fong needed was spiritual energy, other than the heavenly realm. Spiritual energy could only be found in the underworld. And this time, Yuan Fong's physical body was activated because he had consumed the spiritual fruit in the game. Chapter 4:26. Roar. During this time, Yuan Fong screamed in pain. Even his skin was slightly broken. Wang Long was anxious. Their speed was no match for the dire wolf cavalry. Now that they were dragging a slow-moving monk, they were even slower. Seeing that the dire wolf cavalry was getting closer, Wang Long cursed in his heart. He felt that his luck was too bad. As Yuan Fong got closer, the zombie wolves were alarmed. They bared their teeth and roared at Yuan Fong. Naturally, it was not Yuan Fong's neck that was broken, but the wolf's fangs. Wang Long's punch landed on the wolf's head. The wolf's head was immediately smashed into the ground. Its running body came to an abrupt stop, and its limbs were lifted into the air due to inertia. Seeing this, Yuan Fong felt a little sad. Isn't this a little too decisive? Wang Long, who was watching from afar, could not help but turn on the live broadcast. Awoo! The dinosaur took a few steps back in fear. Blood dripped down from the corner of its mouth. Awoo! The wolf seemed to be in pain, but it did not let go. Dark green blood flowed down from its mouth. Obviously, this attack did not cause more than 500 damage. Not only did it not break Yuan Fong's defense, but it also broke his fangs. Of course, this foreign force is behaving badly. I am willing to contribute my strength. Yuan Fong nodded with a smile. At this time, the wolf suddenly bit the monk's right arm. Are they the soldiers of the 9 luminaries? Yuan Fong asked curiously with a calm expression. At this time, the leader of the dire wolf cavalry staggered up from the ground. He looked at the fragile Yuan Fong in disbelief, unable to understand what was going on. Monk, run. Thinking of this, Wang Long immediately pulled Yuan Fong and ran. Ding! It's not safe. This used to be our territory. But now, our hometown, the Mansion of the Dead, has been occupied by foreign forces. We have to be careful now. It's not easy to escape if we encounter the soldiers of the 9 luminaries. Wang Long sighed helplessly. Upon hearing the order, the dire wolf under him opened its bloody mouth and bit at Yuan Fong, who was under its feet. Yuan Fong, on the other hand, was not nervous at all. After all, he was someone who had been in a frying pan and had almost withstood an AK. Although the wild beast looked scary, it was not a difficult challenge for Yuan Fong. As a veteran player, Wang Long was naturally very familiar with the situation in Liuli district. After walking for more than 2 hours with Yuan Fong, they arrived at a barren plain. Even though he was still at level 0, as long as his most immeasurable skill leveled up, the fixed damage reduction and damage reduction percentage would increase. It was still incomparably strong. At this time, Yuan Fong was following Wang Long toward the south of Liuli district. Beiki Liuli district. After all, he was not a newbie player. If he were to die now, it would not be easy for him to escape from the tight encirclement once he was resurrected in the central area of Beiki. He had originally chosen the south because there were fewer 9 Luminaries warriors patrolling this area, but he did not expect to run into them anyway. Benefactor, you're amazing! Yuan Fong, who had been dragged all the way, stood up unscathed. He looked at Wang Long and exclaimed. After a while, Wang Long suddenly burst into laughter. Haha, monk, you're making me laugh to death. What kind of idiotic skill is this? Ha ha ha! Although the zombie wolves were stupid animals, their ferocity was completely stimulated even though they were injured. They bit toward Yuan Fong again. External forces. Yuan Fong was stunned. Reducing the target's damage by 80% meant that the monk would be a pure meat shield. His damage output was not even comparable to his own damage reflection. This is the most elite cavalry of the 9 Luminaries army. Every one of them has the strength equivalent to us players at around level 100. Wang Long's face was extremely ugly when he said this. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. The sound of fangs and claws breaking could be heard continuously. Under Yuan Fong's damage reflection, the surrounding wolves were getting weaker and weaker. Benefactor, didn't you say that there are many monsters in the central area of Liuli district? Why are we heading south? Yuan Fong asked curiously. I'm just being impatient. I also know that you're fine. These zombie wolves really can't break through your defense. As he approached, Wang Long raised his fist. The red power gem on his body flashed, and his right arm was instantly enveloped by a scarlet airflow. Then he smashed it down. Seeing this, Yuan Fong was about to pull his right arm back, but he saw the alpha wolf's expression suddenly turn fierce. It dragged him and began to run like crazy. Looking at the resentful Wang Long, Yuan Fong smiled awkwardly and patted his dusty clothes. Before Wang Long could finish his words, a roar suddenly came from afar. Bullsh *T, I can throw. Before he could finish his words, Wang Long's expression froze. Buddha bless you! Ouch! At this moment, Yuan Fong let out a blood-curdling scream, and a -3 appeared on his head. On the other hand, the surrounding dire wolf cavalryman vomited blood. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he gritted his teeth and shouted to the squad of soldiers. Go! Kill him! That's right. Why the hell am I dragging this monk as a meat shield? This is too uncivilized. He was the one who attacked. How did I get hurt? In his opinion, this bastard monk's ability was really full of potential. Could the monk reduce the damage when he attacked? Or 80%? Roar! At this moment, the leader of the dire wolf cavalryman raised the spear in his hand, and the cavalryman immediately charged at the two like ferocious tigers descending the mountain. After so many years, this was the first time Yuan Fong felt pain. Although it was very weak, he could not help but scream. Clang! Crack! 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 Yuan Fong stopped in his tracks at this moment, allowing the wolves to surround him. He put his palms together and said, seeing that Yuan Fong was getting closer and closer, the alpha wolf suddenly let out a long howl. Then it moved its limbs and fiercely pounced at Yuan Fong. At this moment, Wang Long could not hold it in any more. Hearing the monk's praise, Wang Long did not feel proud at all. Instead, he felt deep sorrow. One point, Yuan Fong was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, the alpha wolf had already closed in. It leaped into the air and pounced at Yuan Fong. Its eyes were locked on Yuan Fong's throat and it bit down. The punch landed hard on the alpha wolf's head, and the alpha wolf immediately narrowed its eyes. Seeing this, the leader of the cavalrymen was also dumbfounded. He immediately raised his spear and stabbed at Yuan Fong's little bald head. Under Yuan Fong's stunned gaze, Wang Long ran further and further away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The bite landed on Yuan Fong's shiny bald head. Yuan Fong was unscathed, but the dire wolf's teeth were shattered. Monk, you will be a member of Beiki in the future. When our Beiki players become stronger, and we are ready to go to war with the Nine Yao army, remember to come and help us. Wang Long could not help but remind Yuan Fong after some thought. Although this wolf ran very fast, it was still much slower than Wang Long, who was over level 100. Very soon, Wang Long caught up with it. When the spear landed on Yuan Fong's head, a sharp sound of collision could be heard. Looking at the alpha wolf whose mouth was already crooked, Yuan Fong raised his fist and punched the alpha wolf. Yuan Fong turned his head and looked at Wang Long, who was still laughing wildly in the distance. He silently wanted to withdraw his weak little fist. F***CK monk. Seeing this, Wang Long quickly followed. At this moment, the leader of the dire wolf cavalry was furious. With a long howl, a fiery red airflow emerged from the palm of his hand and spiraled up along the spear. It condensed at the tip and once again stabbed at Yuan Fong, who was lying on the ground. When it came to fighting, Yuan Fong was actually not very skilled. After all, being able to resist and being able to fight were two completely different things. Wang Long instantly killed the alpha wolf with a punch that had accumulated his strength. F***CK, the Nine Yao direwolf cavalry. Seeing the squad not far away, Wang Long's expression changed. Ha ha ha, monk, don't fight anymore. Just stand there and let them bite you. Wang Long continued laughing in the live chat channel. Bang! Yuan Fong was speechless. The sound of metal colliding could be heard. Yuan Fong was still fine, but the leader of the direwolf cavalry felt his arm go numb. A force flowed through the spear into his arm, almost causing him to lose his grip on the spear. Crack! Crack! The alpha wolf's already broken teeth cracked again, falling off one by one. At this moment, the wolves surrounding Yuan Fong also launched an attack at the same time. He had a fixed damage reduction of 500, and the wolf rider's highest damage output was only around 500. They couldn't even break through his defense, so there was no point in worrying about him. As soon as they arrived, they saw the zombie wolf pack not far away. The two chatted as they headed south. Oh, Amiba. Good, evil beasts. This little monk will free you now. Seeing this scene, Yuan Fong could not bear to watch. After thinking for a while, he decided to help. Almsgiver, this little monk is fine. Don't worry. The two immediately turned around and saw a squad of armored direwolf cavalry on a small hill not far away, staring at them from afar. Powerful, my ass. You don't know how strong you are. Wang Long could not help but roll his eyes. Battle notification. Deal 5 damage to zombie wolf leader. In the state of Moke's infinite body, with a merciful heart, damage to the target reduced by 80%. Deal 1 damage. At this time, the wolf riders behind them also surrounded them. The leader of the dire wolves immediately pounced on Yuan Fong and pushed him to the ground. The cavalry behind them quickly surrounded him. Moreover, he really wanted to know how much the mastery of his supernatural power, Moke's infinite body, would increase when he took damage. Almsgiver, why don't you stop running? Or maybe you should run first. I want to see if they can hurt me. Yuan Fong said helplessly as he ran. About 5 minutes later, Yuan Fong was shocked to find that the zombie wolves surrounding him were either crippled or had broken teeth. They looked extremely miserable. So the fight began. Comparing oneself to a monk was infuriating. Seeing this, Wang Long described the war before the explosion of the Mansion of the Dead. In his narration, Yuan Fong could not help but frown as he described the heinous crimes of the Nine Brilliance army. Moreover, for monks who could not deal damage, the existence of levels was only to increase their HP. It was not as important as other players. Hearing this, Yuan Fong nodded slightly and walked toward the wolf pack. In other words, monks could only let others hit them and then kill them. They could not take the initiative to kill others. In the distance, Wang Long, who was in the party with Yuan Fong, was also stunned when he saw the combat information that appeared on the interface. Whoa! At the same time, the power of the rebound directly shattered the spear and sent the dire wolf rider captain flying from his mount. Go monk! I'll just watch. The experience produced by these low-end creatures is not very useful to me, but it's just right for you to level up. Player clan, kill. Looking down at Yuan Fong, who was under the foot of his dire wolf mount, the dire wolf rider captain smiled sinisterly and shouted. At this time, the game notification sounded. Under Wang Long's dumbfounded expression, Yuan Fong's right arm was bitten by the alpha wolf and dragged away. Thinking of this, Wang Long suddenly let go of Yuan Fong and ran away at a faster speed. Kacha! Chapter 4:27. While Yuan Fong was being beaten up, a live stream thread appeared on the official forum. The future #1 tank in the entire server, Little Baldy, is being beaten up on a live stream. Moke the Infinite, whom everyone is paying attention to the most. At that moment, the hottest topic among the players on the forum was Moke the Infinite. When they saw the live stream thread, a large number of players immediately joined it. Coupled with the fact that they were spreading the news, the number of players increased exponentially. At that moment, in the live stream, Yuan Fong was still being besieged. He was rolling on the ground while screaming in pain. However, what shocked the players watching the live stream was that every time the dire wolf riders attacked Yuan Fong, they would be the ones vomiting blood. This scene was too strange. Although Yuan Fong was screaming in pain, his voice was full of energy and he was completely fine. On the other hand, he looked extremely miserable. Not only was his armor broken, but he was also covered in wounds. He looked extremely haggard. It hurts so much. Stop hitting me, it hurts so much. Yuan Fong continued to scream in pain. Hearing this, the surrounding dire wolf riders felt like vomiting blood. Yuan Fong was like a porcupine in their eyes. When they hit him, they were the ones who were hurting. Although they had already noticed Yuan Fong's strangeness, they still thought that Yuan Fong was about to die when they heard his screams. His special defense was probably going to be broken soon, and they would be able to kill him soon. Hence, they persisted for more than 10 minutes. However, the problem was that Yuan Fong was still unharmed. On the other hand, they felt their organs shaking violently. They could not take it anymore, and they even vomited a few liters of blood. Hence, when they heard Yuan Fong's screams again, the dire wolf riders felt like they had been deceived. This was too fake. It must be on purpose. Seeing that the surrounding dire wolf riders had suddenly stopped, Yuan Fong, who was hugging his head and rolling on the ground, was stunned. He slowly raised his head and saw that the surrounding dire wolf riders looked extremely miserable. They were all looking at him in despair, as if they were completely helpless. Not fighting anymore. Yuan Fong was stunned. After thinking for a while, he opened the skill interface to see if his skill proficiency had increased after being beaten up like this. Moke the Infinite Body level 1-1. 2/10,000. Moke the Infinite Body level 1-1. 2/10,000. What? It only increased by 1. 2. Yuan Fong had a constipated expression on his face. In his opinion, This beating was even more vicious than the beatings from his senior and junior brothers, yet it had only increased by so little. If he wanted to level up, he would have to suffer through hell and back. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong couldn't help but shiver. At this moment, he felt that he was really miserable. However, since he had decided to cultivate the infinite mark to the extreme, he naturally wouldn't be discouraged. Although it was painful, he still decided to persevere. Yuan Fong raised his head and looked resolutely at the dire wolf riders who were still surrounding him. Everyone, come on. I suddenly feel that I can still hold on a little longer. The dire wolf cavalry. At this moment, they even had the urge to kill. Did this bastard Baldy think that they were playing around? They were the dire wolf cavalry that killed players without blinking an eye. Mother****, these words are so annoying. The enraged dire wolf cavalry immediately attacked again and began to punish this bastard monk. As one of the most elite troops in the land of the 9 luminaries, they had their own pride. At this moment, Tyrant's words had truly provoked them. Thus, Tyrant began to roll on the ground and scream in pain again, while the surrounding dire wolf cavalry couldn't help but vomit blood. This scene completely dumbfounded the players who were watching the live stream. There were all sorts of pop-up comments asking what was going on. However, Wang Long didn't reply. At this moment, he was staring at Tyrant, who was being beaten up and couldn't stop laughing. Finally, he saw Tyrant being beaten up. He suddenly felt extremely comfortable. Who told you to keep acting cool? About 10 minutes later, the dire wolf cavalry stopped once again. Their blood flowed backward, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Seeing that they had stopped again, Yuan Fong couldn't help but glance at his skill proficiency again. When he realized that it had reached 2, a gratified smile appeared on his face. Then, he turned to look at the wolf cavalry captain. Why don't we take a break and continue? The wolf cavalry captain. In the past, he would definitely have fought Tyrant to the death with these provocative words. However, at this moment, he really felt mentally exhausted. Was there any meaning to this kind of battle if he hit the other party and hurt himself? Looking at Yuan Fong's expectant face, the wolf cavalry captain's face turned ashen. He wanted to smash Yuan Fong's face with his fists, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. Benefactor, do your best. At this moment, Yuan Fong suddenly clenched his fist and made a cheering gesture. Retreat! Seeing this scene, the wolf cavalry captain had a mental breakdown. He immediately used the last of his strength to shout at the soldiers beside him. When the soldiers heard this, they hurriedly patted their dire wolves and began to retreat. Hey, Benefactor, you can't do this. Yuan Fong, who was still immersed in the joy of slowly improving his god art, hurriedly got up and shouted at the retreating wolf cavalry captain. Hearing this, a few wolf cavalry captain directly fell off the back of their dire wolves. However, they didn't say anything. They didn't even turn back. They struggled to stand up again, climbed back onto the back of their dire wolves with difficulty, and continued to retreat with the team. At this moment, their mental state had already collapsed. In the past, no matter how difficult the battle was, the other side would still suffer casualties. At least they would feel comforted. At least it proved that the dire wolf cavalry didn't fear death. However, it was different this time. The target didn't even attack, but they were injured one by one. In addition, the other party was mocking them. It was too frustrating. They couldn't take it anymore, and their mental state had completely collapsed. At this moment, they didn't even want to look at Yuan Fong. Just looking at him made them angry. However, if they attacked again, they would really die. Sigh. Seeing the dire wolf cavalry leave, Yuan Fong couldn't help but sigh. He felt that the opportunity to improve his god art had slipped away just like that. How frustrating. At this moment, the forum's live streaming channel was also in an uproar. Cyberpunk. Can someone tell me what the hell is going on? This battle has me dumbfounded. Please explain. Slams table emoji. Watermelon_Taro. Did you guys notice? There's a party interface on the upper right corner of the live streaming channel. The player who got beaten up seems to be only level 0, Shueli _the strongest. A level 0 player defeated a group of level 100 monsters. F asterisk CK, what kind of monster is this? If he's level 100, he can probably kill everything with one punch. Slams keyboard angrily JPG, roasting _Jade _ hugging I don't understand this godly operation at all. How can a level 0 defeat a group of level 100 monsters? Back then, the wall cheat of the Asia server, Northstar Blade, also relied on skills and a legendary weapon to defeat dozens of level 3 and 40 players. He's fighting a group of level 100 monsters at level 0. Doesn't he need skills? Is it true? Crayon _Shinchan, Tisk, TSK. I can tell that you weaklings can't understand. Based on my professional experience, this bald donkey's Naraka Realm ability should be a sound wave attack. Didn't you guys hear him screaming? He's relying on his screams to cause internal injuries to the dire wolf cavalry soldiers around him. This is the truth, laughing emoji, Peppa _Bor. The analysis of the contrarian is pretty reasonable. I think it might be the lion's roar technique. Didn't you see that he's bald? It's a Buddhist lion's roar, a perfect match, laughing emoji. He saw that the live stream room was in chaos. Wang Long thought for a while and decided to upload Yuan Fang's information. He wanted to help Yuan Fang gain fame as soon as possible so that he could be recruited into the Bakey Wall Cheat Squad. Hence, he uploaded Yuan Fang's information as the host on the chat interface and pinned it to the top. At this moment, the live streaming channel fell into a brief silence. Then, the chat area of the live streaming channel exploded. Shueli _the strongest. Damn, Bakey finally has someone who can take it. This little monk is even more tanky than Lionheart from the European server. Society, this is too society. Violent _macho. I heard that a large group of assassin players in the sewers are advocating the rise of assassins. They are really rising. Look, your ultimate daddy is here. Laughing emoji, Peppa _Bor. Little monk, this is so boring. Do you have any backstabs? I love the feeling of being backstabbed the most. It's so numb. I feel so uncomfortable if I don't get backstabbed a few times every day. Laughing emoji, Shueli _the strongest. That's enough. I'm hiring an assassin. We have to assassinate this player in reality. We can't let him grow. Otherwise, we assassin players will just be the younger brother of the younger brother in front of him. Slams table emoji, Crayon _Shinchan. Everyone, please hunt down this player. No matter how strong he is in the game, can he withstand bullets in reality? We have to assassinate him. After all, his skills can reflect spells when he grows stronger. Let's kill him before his skills level up. Banging on the blackboard crazily, Wang Long _little Superman. Owner, let me explain to everyone. Actually, although the little monk's defense is invincible, he has a huge limitation. He can't kill anyone. Battle infographic attached. Take a look at it yourselves. That's why he can't do anything to the dire wolf cavalrymen. Also, I have to say, the monk is very friendly. Assassin players don't bully him. Laughing emoji. Invincible _loneliness replied to Wang Long _little Superman. Brother, please add me your contact number. Such a tanky tank must join our guild. Plus, my dog is so good at healing. Laughing emoji. The players in the live streaming channel were discussing it. After knowing the limitations of the monk's ability, the players finally felt a little better. However, they still felt terrible. Another wall hacking player has appeared. Player status -1. Apart from the assassin players, the mages were also feeling terrible. Thinking about the appearance of a tank that could reflect spells in the future, they could already imagine how miserable it would be if they were to encounter the wall-hacking monk with their fragile skin. The next time this ultimate skill was used, they might be instantly killed. The gaming experience was terrible. However, looking at the overall situation, the players still felt a little relieved. At least this wall-hacking player was under their control. It would be better for them to fight cross-server battles in the future. While the players were discussing it incessantly, Yuan Fong had a bitter expression on his face. He also felt terrible. A round of beatings only increased his mastery by 2. If he wanted to stack the mastery to the next level, he would probably have to suffer at least 5,000 beatings. Furthermore, the duration of each beating couldn't be less than half an hour. Damn it. I'm going bald from all this worry. At that moment, Wang Long's figure appeared beside him. At that moment, he was grinning happily. Monk, you didn't suffer a loss from this beating. You're already famous. Many big shots want to recruit you into their guild. When Yuan Fong heard that, he sighed. Almsgiver, the mastery of this divine power is increasing too slowly. I'm suffering. When Wang Long heard that, he couldn't help but be taken aback. Then he grinned. Isn't it easy to get beaten up? Walk towards the mansion of the dead. If you walk there openly, you'll definitely get beaten up along the way. Your mastery will increase by leaps and bounds. Really? When Yuan Fong heard that, he immediately perked up. Why would I lie to you? This place is quite far from the central area of Beiki, so there are fewer patrolling 9 luminary soldiers. When Yuan Fong heard that, he nodded excitedly. Then he turned his gaze towards the direction of the mansion of the dead. At that moment, he was prepared to receive the most vicious beatings and increase his mastery the fastest. Chapter 428. Recently, the soldiers of the 9 luminaries army stationed in Beiki were very distressed. In the past, the player clans that did not gather together were not a threat to them at all because they operated in small teams and each team was led by a powerful captain. Basically, they could easily kill the player clans that they encountered. However, a bald man with a special ability suddenly appeared in Beiki recently. The appearance of this man almost made them bald as well. They did not know what kind of strange ability this bald man had mastered, but they could not kill him. What was more frightening was that when they hit him, they were the ones who got hurt. In the beginning, many patrolling soldiers of the 9 luminaries army did not know the specific situation. Basically, they would attack him together when they saw him, planning to kill him on the spot. However, the result was tragic. Every time the bald man was besieged, he would shout and scream as if he was going to die soon, tempting others to beat him up even more fiercely. However, the truth was that those who beat him up were always 100 times worse than him. After a week or so, a warning was circulating in the entire 9 luminaries army of Beiki. If you meet a bald man from the player clan in Beiki, don't ever think about killing him. Don't be deceived by his harmless appearance, and don't believe his cries. They are all F***king fake. Many patrolling soldiers of the 9 luminaries army who had contact with Yuan Fong suspected that this bald man was obviously looking for a beating. His intentions were too obvious. As the warning about the bald man circulated among the 9 luminaries patrol army, from then on, the 9 luminaries patrol army would avoid this bald man whenever they encountered him during their patrols. They all knew that this bald man's physical body was extremely hard and could not be damaged at all. Not to mention the fact that their efforts would be in vain. They might even beat themselves to death if they used too much force. Therefore, the patrolling soldiers of the 9 luminaries army completely gave up and tacitly agreed on the unspoken rule of not killing a bald man. However, this made Yuan Fong extremely distressed. It was fine for the first few days. Although he was beaten up every day, at least he could see the growth of his proficiency and look forward to the upgrade of his supernatural power. However, gradually, the patrolling soldiers of the 9 luminaries army who usually loved to beat him up started to ignore him. What made Yuan Fong feel even more outrageous was that a few patrolling soldiers actually took a detour and ran away when they saw him. Am I a devil? Or do I not look kind enough? Yuan Fong was very sad because his master had told him that he must cultivate Mo, the infinite well, and that he must not forget it during his cultivation. Moreover, he did not forget that he planned to take a good beating under such favorable conditions and strive to achieve success in his cultivation as soon as possible. But now, when these patrolling soldiers saw him, It was as if they had seen a ghost. He felt that he could not cultivate properly at all. There was one more thing that troubled him, and that was his level. He had been here for a week, but he was still level 8. He couldn't level up at all. This was because he could not kill the monsters at all. The level 8 he achieved was the EXP given to the 9 luminary soldiers who accidentally killed themselves because they overexerted themselves. For players who did not spend money, their level was directly linked to their soul coins. The more monsters he killed, the more experience he gained. The higher his level was, the more soul coins he would have. He was only at level 8, so the number of soul coins he had was pitifully small. However, Yuan Fong was glad that in this game world his hunger would not appear as frequently as it did in reality. It gave Yuan Fong the feeling that his body was always breathing, swallowing some substance in the air to replenish the normal consumption of his body. This undoubtedly made him feel relieved. At least, he did not have to worry about food all the time. In the past week in the game, Yuan Fong had gradually developed the idea of earning soul coins from treating money as dirt. The main reason was that there were too many delicious food in the game, but these spiritual delicacies could only be bought with soul coins at the auction house. Until now, Yuan Fong, who did not have many soul coins, could only buy some simple, ordinary food made by players to survive. However, these food also made Yuan Fong very happy. The taste was really good, and it could be said to be cheap. Actually, what Yuan Fong did not know was that the food in the auction house was basically made by capable chefs in reality. If it was not for the fact that the taste was passable, it would not have been able to sell well in the game. At this stage, there were already several brands of food made with local ingredients in Bakey, such as Bakey mineral water, Fawn biscuits, instant seaweed, with spirit wine, rock cigarette, and so on. These brands were created by players or NPCs, and they circulated among the players because of their high quality. Many foreign players would even import a batch of local food or snacks from Bakey. In the underworld, where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was abundant, even the most common ingredients would taste better than the human world during the age of Dharma decay because they were more or less contaminated with spiritual chi. This was just like how even the weakest ghost in the underworld was almost invincible in a one-on-one fight in the human world. In essence, it was because the amount of spiritual chi in the world had drawn an insurmountable gap between the human world and the underworld, forming a contrast between a high martial arts world and an ordinary world. This included all the material comparisons. This was the reason why even the lowest quality ingredients in the underworld could be so delicious. In short, from Yuan Fong's point of view, this world was the ultimate paradise in his heart, a paradise for a foodie like him. Yuan Fong had even made up his mind to travel around when his supernatural power level was higher and he had the ability to do so. He would travel around this world, taste the delicacies of all the major regions, and live a carefree life. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong touched his bald head, stuffed the bun in his hand into his mouth, and swallowed it. Then he stood up and walked toward the area marked as the Mansion of the Dead on the map. Since you guys refused to come and beat me up, I'll go to your house to look for you. Thinking of this, the monk's steps became much lighter. I'm going to get beaten up. Bakey, inside the crater of the Mansion of the Dead. Earth Yao frowned as he listened to his subordinates' reports, his expression extremely solemn. Recently, in order to wipe out the player clan and completely occupy the whole of Bakey, they could be said to have given their all. Even their boss, Xing Yao, personally went out and turned Bakey upside down, basically sweeping through all the areas. However, the problem was that the player clan seemed to be unable to be wiped out. One group would always come after another, and it really made them feel mentally exhausted. However, they still clenched their teeth and persevered. In order to take over Bakey, they had lost too much. Not only did the vitality of the entire land of the 9 luminaries suffer, but 3 of their brothers were also killed. It could be said that their foundation was completely damaged, so how could they be satisfied if they couldn't take over Bakey? Moreover, it was no longer up to them if they didn't want to. They had to persevere. If they didn't take over Bakey and let one of their brothers advance to the Ghost Emperor realm, they would be in a very dangerous situation. This was the underworld, where the strong preyed on the weak. They were sitting on the land of the 9 luminaries, which was rich in spiritual minds, and many forces were secretly watching them. Now that their forces had suffered such a huge loss, if they couldn't rise again, they could only fall. When that time came, nothing would be left, and they would be completely crushed by the wheel of history, just like those ancient forces that disappeared in the long river of history. In this world, no opponent would show mercy to their enemy. Even if one was powerless to fight against them, they would still choose to kill them mercilessly, never giving them a chance to turn things around. This was the law of survival in the underworld. If one didn't improve and become stronger, there would be no way out. Under such a huge sense of crisis, they could only search for the player clan like crazy and wipe them out completely. Then they would pray for the great emperor's blessing to let one of their brothers advance to his excellency so that the 9 luminaries' force could continue to exist. Moreover, they didn't believe that they couldn't kill all of the player clan. Hoo-yah! Does Big Brother mean that he's going to rebuild the entire Bakey once he advances to the Ghost Emperor realm? Earth frowned when he heard his subordinates report. Great Lord Earth! That's what His Excellency meant. He suspects that the player clan is hiding underground, and now His Excellency is trying to advance to the next realm. His Excellency said that as long as he advances to the Ghost Emperor realm, he will be able to turn the entire Bakey underground world upside down. By then, the player clan will have nowhere to hide. Earth couldn't help but nod. In fact, his big brother had the same thought as him. The player clan must be hiding underground because they had already swept through all the areas on the surface of Bakey several times, but they didn't find any large-scale gathering places of the players. By the way, Great Lord Earth, there's one more thing. Recently, a very strange member of the player clan has appeared in Bakey, who is said in a low voice. Oh, what's so strange about him? Earth frowned. He really hated the player clan to the core. I heard it from Commander Xing, of the patrol army. He said that there's a warning circulating among the patrol army under his jurisdiction. Don't mess with a bald man from the player clan. Don't mess with a bald man from the player clan? What does that mean? Earth was stunned. Obviously, he didn't understand what it meant. I was also very surprised at that time, so I asked around and found a few cavalrymen of the patrol army to interrogate them. Only then did I know that a bald man from the player clan has appeared in Bakey recently. He's very strange, even more so than the average member of the player clan. Many patrol soldiers have been defeated by him. According to the patrol soldier's description, this person's body is extremely hard, like an obsidian, spiritual or indestructible. The strangest thing is that the person who attacks him will feel an inexplicable force feedback in his body when he is injured. Because of this, the cavalry of the patrol army will choose to take a detour when they see him. They don't dare to mess with him. It can be said that they can't do anything to him at all. Force feedback. Earth couldn't help but frown when he heard this. He had heard of such an ability before. For example, there was a large cultivation system called the Azura Path in the Luhu territory to the north of the land of the 9 luminaries. In this cultivation system, there was a curse-killing technique whose effect was very similar to what he had described. However, the difference was that the curse-killing technique had to be cursed in advance so that the opponent's body would bear the damage. There were complicated steps during the process, such as obtaining the opponent's body parts, gathering spiritual materials corresponding to the opponent's physical attributes, and so on. However, the bald man mentioned by Huya was different. It seemed that he had no limitations at all. Earth couldn't help but feel puzzled. Thinking of this, Earth couldn't help but ask, "Do you know where this person is now?" "I don't know, but this person has been wandering around Bakey. It should be very easy to find him." Chapter 429. Hearing that this person was wandering around Bakey, Earth Yao could not help but nod. "All right, go back and tell Big Brother that I got it. As for the bald player, I'll find a way to deal with him." "Yes, I'll take my leave now." Huya said with a fist salute before turning around and leaving. At this moment, Earth Yao stood up from his seat and slowly walked out of the military tent, heading toward the outside world. At this moment, he was extremely curious about the man from the player clan that Huya mentioned. However, this was also in line with the characteristics of the player clan. During their interaction, they also discovered the strangest thing about the player clan. As a clan, the abilities they mastered were very complicated and even completely different. It was as if this clan had mastered many cultivation systems. This was very strange in Earth Yao's eyes. After all, in the underworld, a clan would usually choose to specialize in a cultivation system that was suitable for the clan's advancement. However, this player clan was the exact opposite. It was as if they had mastered the abilities of every system. It was really strange. As he thought about this, Earth Yao's figure rose into the air and swept toward the outside of the mansion of the dead sinkhole. However, as soon as he rose into the air, Earth Yao noticed a dazzling ray of light refracted not far away. He could not help but turn his head to look. He saw a bald man from the player clan walking toward him from afar. The ray of light was the sunlight refracted from his bald head. That's him. Earth Yao was stunned. He did not expect this man from the player clan to come to him without an invitation. Earth Yao could not help but feel annoyed. After all, this kind of behavior was really provocative. It was not that there were no players who dared to come here, but they were all in groups. It was Earth Yao's first time seeing someone walking toward him so openly. In his opinion, this bald man was a little too arrogant. As he thought about this, his figure hovered in the air and dashed toward Yuan Fong. As he was about to reach Yuan Fong, he grabbed forward with his right hand. Suddenly, a black ray of light rolled forward and wrapped around Yuan Fong's body, pulling him in front of him. At this moment, Yuan Fong felt his body tighten as a huge force attacked him. He could not help but float into the air and instantly appeared in front of a strange man. Looking at the dignified man in front of him, Yuan Fong could not help but open the analysis menu. He immediately realized that this person was one of the 9 luminaries' brothers, Earth Yao. At this moment, Yuan Fong subconsciously muttered, "Oh, Amitabha, Buddha bless you." Although Earth Yao didn't understand what Yuan Fong was saying, he frowned, thinking that Yuan Fong was scolding him. However, Earth Yao did not kill Yuan Fong right away. Instead, he reached out and patted Yuan Fong's body. He wanted to test if Yuan Fong's ability was as mysterious as he had described. Ouch! Suddenly, Yuan Fong started screaming. At the same time, Earthen felt a tremor in his arm and an inexplicable force suddenly appeared. Damage feedback? It was indeed very strange. But seeing me for the first time, it can't be the killing curse art of the Rahu region. Thinking of this, Earthen was shocked. This meant that the bald man's abilities were truly limitless. Such abilities were simply too terrifying. At that moment, Yuan Fong was also stunned. With just a light pat from Earthen, his monk's immeasurable mastery had increased by 0.05. This was the first time he had seen such a rapid increase. After pondering for a moment, Yuan Fong raised his head and looked at Earthen with utmost sincerity. "Benefactor, please continue." "Earth." Such provocative words infuriated Earthen. However, he didn't kill Yuan Fong recklessly. After all, he still wasn't sure if the bald man could really reflect all the damage. Therefore, he raised his head again and patted Yuan Fong's head with his palm. More than 30 HP was taken out of Yuan Fong's body, causing him to let out a shrill scream. Earthen's right arm also trembled. He could clearly feel a force rushing into his right arm, instantly unleashing a destructive force. However, he had the body of a ghost king, so this kind of damage was insignificant to him. What surprised him was Yuan Fong's ability. If there was really no upper limit to this kind of damage feedback, then it would be too terrifying. After the scream, Yuan Fong realized that his mastery had increased even more this time. Yuan Fong was pleasantly surprised. Most of the ordinary 9 Luminaries Patrol Army soldiers could not even break through his defense, and the skill mastery they provided was even less. This was the first time he had encountered someone who could break through his defense as easily as the Earth Illuminator. At that moment, Yuan Fang's gaze toward Earthen became extremely friendly. "Benefactor, I've recovered. Let's continue." "Humph." Earthen was infuriated. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and he immediately increased his strength and slapped Yuan Fang again. Bam! Earthen used 20% of his strength for this slap. As soon as it hit Yuan Fang, he withdrew his right palm and maintained a distance from Yuan Fang. "Ah!" Yuan Fang screamed again. After receiving the slap, a -120 bloody number appeared above Yuan Fang's head. His head was buzzing. This force was far stronger than any force Yuan Fang had encountered before, and he was completely bewildered. How is this possible? Earthen couldn't help but exclaim. Previously, he thought that the main problem with Yuan Fang's damage feedback came from the contact. Therefore, he quickly withdrew his right hand when he hit Yuan Fang. However, he didn't expect that the force would inexplicably reflect back to his body again, causing sharp pain in his right arm. Damage transfer through the air? Earthen's expression became extremely solemn. This ability was completely beyond his imagination. Even his big brother, Starshine, didn't possess such a terrifying ability. "Benefactor, it's my turn to slow down this time. If you hit me again, I'm going to be flattened." Yuan Fang, who was seeing stars, couldn't help but say. However, Earthen ignored him. He swung his palm again, and this time he used 70% of his strength. At the same time, his body tensed up, ready to withstand the damage feedback. Bam! What Earthen didn't expect was, when this slap landed on the bald man's body, it directly turned him into a black mist that dissipated. Moreover, the damage feedback that should have appeared after the slap also disappeared. This left Earthen dumbfounded. He initially thought that he might not be able to do anything to the player family man who had such a strange ability. He thought that he had encountered a ferocious tiger, but the result left him dumbfounded. He didn't even have the chance to use his full strength, and he was already gone. Earthen had a strange expression on his face as he felt very awkward. After a moment of silence, Earthen suddenly turned around and headed back to the camp. He didn't even try to extract Yuan Fang's soul. After interacting with the player family for a long time, he knew very well that the player family members didn't have souls. They would turn into black mist and dissipate after death. So extracting their souls was completely useless. However, Earthen still felt happy deep down in his heart that he had defeated an opponent that he thought would be extremely difficult to deal with, even though the process was beyond his expectations. However, Earthen didn't expect that this was just the beginning. 3.5 hours later, Yuan Fang's figure once again appeared outside the sinkhole in the mansion of the dead. At this moment, Yuan Fang's expression was filled with surprise. That was because Earthen's 3 slaps, especially the last one, gave him a proficiency that couldn't be compared to the few hours of beatings he received. Therefore, Yuan Fang hurried over again after his resurrection cooldown was over. Right now, in Yuan Fang's eyes, Earthen was a godly tool to farm proficiency. How could he let go of this opportunity? Benefactor Earthen, I'm back! Yuan Fang shouted as he ran into the sinkhole. His appearance immediately alerted the guards. They immediately surrounded Yuan Fang and launched an attack on him. Seeing that the enemies were surrounding him, Yuan Fang skillfully lay on the ground and covered his head with both hands. As the attacks came, he began to roll left and right while screaming in pain. The commotion outside naturally attracted Earthen's attention. He immediately walked out of the tent and widened his eyes. Wasn't the bald man rolling on the ground not far away the man from the player family whom he had killed? Yao dashed toward Yuan Fang in disbelief. He brushed past the guards and grabbed Yuan Fang's neck. He lifted Yuan Fang up and stared at him with a ferocious expression. He glared at Yuan Fang with a ferocious expression and asked, "Aren't you dead?" "Oh, Amitabha, Lord Buddha has blessed you. Benefactor Earthen. I'm not dead, Yuan Fong answered immediately. Bam! Earthen's expression was ferocious as he punched Yuan Fong's stomach. I'm asking you why you're not dead. The punch made Yuan Fong grimace in pain. However, after the pain passed, he grinned and said, Benefactor, I'm here to look for you. Benefactor, this little monk has come to find you. To be honest, you have the ability to help this little monk attain the great Tao of Buddhism. F***CK. Earthen's blood pressure rose rapidly. He could not suppress his anger. He reached out, grabbed Yuan Fong's head, and pressed him to the ground. Tell me why you're not dead. Lord Buddha has blessed you. At this moment, Earthen could no longer hold it in. He lifted his leg and kicked Yuan Fong's head. Bam! 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 After 3 kicks, Yuan Fong's body was stomped into a black mist and dissipated. However, Earthen's expression was extremely ugly. He glanced at the surrounding guards and snorted coldly. Then he turned around and walked back to his tent. For hours later, Yuan Fong rushed over from the spawn point and appeared outside the sinkhole in the mansion of the dead. The familiar shouts rang out once more. Benefactor Earthen, I'm here to pay a visit. The visit lasted for a week. During this period, Earthen felt like he was tortured to the point of insanity. Initially, he thought that Yuan Fong's most terrifying ability was his damage feedback. He did not expect the monk to have an even more terrifying ability, unlimited resurrection. He killed again and again, but every few hours that bastard monk would always come to him with a smile on his face. Earthen could not stand it anymore. At this moment, Earthen finally realized that the bald man from the player family was here to die. However, he had no choice but to make a move. The guards could not do anything to the bald monk. He could only kill him with his own strength. However, the problem was that every time Earthen attacked Yuan Fong, he had the illusion that he was attacking himself. Who could possibly withstand that? After a week of incessant attacks, Earthen's face became extremely haggard. He even felt that he was a little depressed. At this moment, a soldier suddenly walked into the tent and knelt on one knee. Great Lord, the bald man is here again. Earthen's body trembled when he heard that. Then he slowly opened his bloodshot eyes and nodded. What a vicious psychological attack. He didn't sleep at all during this week, and he didn't even cultivate, because he knew that the bald man would come soon. After taking a deep breath, Earthen stood up and walked out of the tent. Benefactor Earthen, how have you been? Lord Buddha bless you. Earthen did not speak to him at all. His expression was extremely gloomy. He suddenly appeared beside Yuan Fong and grabbed Yuan Fong's neck. What do you want? Benefactor, follow your heart and do it. Yuan Fong smiled. Earthen's expression became extremely ugly when he heard that. Just as he was about to make his move, he suddenly thought of something. A smile slowly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Do you really think that I can't deal with you? Lord Buddha bless you. Yuan Fong's expression was as usual as he said calmly. If it was in the past, Earthen would definitely kill him when he heard that. However, this time he did not make a move. Instead, he smiled ferociously and said, Imprison him for me. Yuan Fong's expression suddenly changed when he heard that. Benefactor, you can't do that. Chapter 430. Almsgiver, you can't do that. Yuan Fong was shocked when he heard that Earth was going to imprison him. Although his physical body was incomparably strong, he was still unable to resist being placed under house arrest. Why? Are you afraid too? Looking at Yuan Fong's current state, a smile appeared on Earth's haggard face. He could not help but ask, Almsgiver Earth, I think you should just kill me. Yuan Fong tried to persuade him. I know you're not afraid of death. I also know that you have the ability to resurrect and damage feedback, so I won't kill you. Earth Yao grinned and threw Yuan Fong to the ground. Then he said to the soldiers around him, Let's go. Then he said to the soldiers around him, Bring him to the prison camp and imprison him. Hearing Earth's order, 2 guards immediately stepped forward and picked Yuan Fong up from the ground, dragging him to the back of the camp. Brilliant Earth benefactor, I don't agree. I'm here to get beaten up, not to be imprisoned. Yuan Fong immediately started shouting. Looking at Yuan Fong, who was gradually getting further away, Earth could not help but spit. However, his tense nerves finally relaxed at this moment. He felt that he was too tired for the past week. This kind of exhaustion did not come from his body, but from his spirit. He felt that the bald man had almost destroyed his spirit. He was too difficult to deal with. Fortunately, he was finally free now that he had been brought to the prison. Thinking of this, a rare smile appeared on Earth's face. Behind the sinkhole in the mansion of the dead, the military prison grounds. This prison grounds was a tradition of the Nine Yao army. It was set up to interrogate and imprison enemies. However, in Beiki, they could not catch the prisoners they wanted, so the prison grounds were basically idle. It was already nighttime. A bonfire was burning in the prison grounds, and a hunchbacked old man in the Nine Yao army's uniform was sitting in front of the bonfire in a daze. At this moment, 2 guards arrived with Yuan Fong. However, the 2 guards did not say anything to the old man in front of the bonfire. Instead, they drove Yuan Fong to a prison, opened the door, and threw him in. Almsgiver, don't do this. Yuan Fong fell to the ground and quickly stood up, trying to persuade him. Why don't you continue to resurrect? Looking at Yuan Fong, the 2 guards smiled at each other and turned to leave. But when he passed by the old man, a guard suddenly said, You're right. Old demon, don't blame us for not warning you. Don't touch him. After saying that, the 2 of them quickly left. When the old man heard that, he slowly opened his murky eyes and looked at Yuan Fong. He could not help but chuckle. Open the door, I want to go out. Realizing that he was really imprisoned, Yuan Fong couldn't help but panic. After playing Battle Online for more than a week, he knew that if he did not die, he would still be here when he respawned. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists and smashed them against the iron bars of the prison. Bang! 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 After a seemingly ferocious punch, Yuan Fong retracted his powerless little fist and quietly squatted down. His fatal weakness was completely unharmed. After a moment of silence, Yuan Fong suddenly turned around and rammed his head against the wall of the cell. Boom! At this moment, the game notification rang. Game notification. Damage is less than 500 points. Damage negated. As this damage is caused by the player himself, damage feedback cannot be applied. At this moment, Yuan Fong felt like shutting himself up. He felt like he was going to die. Little Baldy, you want to come out? At this moment, the old man sitting in front of the bonfire grinned, revealing his charred brown teeth. Old almsgiver, are you going to let me out? Yuan Fong was suddenly energized. No, I just want to torture you. The old man said this calmly, but he could not suppress the excitement in his eyes. Naturally, there was a reason why the guards here called him the old demon. Because he liked to torture prisoners, he even researched 72 types of extremely painful torture methods, which was how he got the name Old Demon. However, since he was sent to Beiki recently, there were no prisoners for him to torture. During this period of time, the old demon felt like he was suffocating. Although the guards warned him before they left, the old demon did not care. Even if he had to be punished, he would accept it. Torturing prisoners was his hobby. Since he only had half a life left, it did not matter even if he died. Thinking of this, the old demon stood up and walked to the front of the prison. He looked at Yuan Fong and began to examine him. Soft skin and tender flesh. You shouldn't be able to withstand much torture. Let's start with the lightest torture, hee. The old demon said with a satisfied expression. Yuan Fong was stunned. He did not expect the old demon to torture him. Instantly, the fear in his heart faded. As someone with thick skin and flesh, he was never afraid of being beaten, let alone being tortured. He was only afraid of being put under house arrest. The more violent the storm, the better. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong could not help but ask, Old almsgiver, Are you really going to torture me? That's right. Are you afraid? The old demon grinned, waiting for the fear to appear on Yuan Fang's face. Ugh, almsgiver, to be honest, not only am I not afraid, I'm actually looking forward to it. After all, it will increase my proficiency. Yuan Fang answered honestly. Hearing this, the old demon's expression froze. When he tortured prisoners, he looked forward to their wails, screams, and expressions of despair. Yuan Fang's words made him extremely angry. Little Baldy, I hope you can still say these words later. The old demon stared at him fiercely. After saying that, he turned around and left. A moment later, when the old demon returned again, there was a black rope in his hand, and there were many strange-looking tools hanging on his body. When he arrived at the cell door again, the old demon threw the rope at Yuan Fang. The black rope shook rapidly like a snake and quickly wrapped around Yuan Fang's body. It connected his limbs to the iron pillars around the cell, binding him tightly and suspending him 1/2 meter above the ground. What are you doing? Yuan Fang asked curiously. Hee, you will know in a moment. Remember to scream louder to make me happy. After saying that, the old demon took out a bunch of keys from his waist, opened the cell door, and walked in. When he came to Tyrant's side, the old demon grinned and lowered his head, scanning the tools hanging on his body as if he was making a choice. In the end, the old demon picked a tool that looked like a pair of pliers and removed it. Click, click. After trying to clamp it together, the old demon nodded in satisfaction. Are you afraid now? The old demon asked again. I'm fine. I just feel that this thing doesn't have much power. Why don't you let Earthen torture me? Tyrant said seriously. Humph. I've tortured many criminals like you. Unfortunately, they all knelt and begged me for mercy in the end. Unfortunately, I didn't let any of them go. Ha ha ha. Thinking of the past, the old demon couldn't help but grin, his face full of pride. However, Yuan Fang looked bored and said perfunctorily, All right. As long as you're happy, almsgiver. Yuan Fang's attitude really annoyed the old demon. He immediately raised the pliers, used his left hand to pry open Tyrant's mouth, and used the pliers to clamp one of his front teeth. Little Baldy, then I'll pull out all your teeth first. You better not be unable to withstand this little pain. As he said that, the old demon couldn't help but get excited, and he exerted force in his hand. Crack! Woo, woo, woo! At that moment, the old demon suddenly let go of the pliers and covered his mouth. However, blood still dripped through the gaps between his fingers. The old demon whimpered in pain, then slowly opened his hand. Suddenly, he found a burnt front tooth lying in the middle of his palm. Yuan Fang was not surprised by this at all. After all, using this kind of tool to pull out teeth naturally wouldn't cause 500 damage. If it couldn't even break through his defense, how could the tooth be pulled out? Looking at the familiarity level, Yuan Fang immediately said with a bored expression, Almsgiver, are you all right? Woo, woo, woo. Ah, woo, woo. The old demon raised his head in horror, revealing a row of teeth that were missing front teeth. He looked extremely miserable. What's going on? How did you do it? Almsgiver, I don't know. Do you want to try again? Tyrant immediately denied. Little Baldy, don't think I can't deal with you. The old demon glared at Yuan Fang angrily, as if his eyes were about to spit fire. He picked up the pliers from the ground again, then reached out and clamped Yuan Fang's index finger nail. Break! Ah! The old demon screamed again. His index fingernail fell off, and blood splattered everywhere. Seeing this scene, Yuan Fang's expression was calm. After thinking for a while, he suddenly screamed, Ah, it hurts, it hurts! In order to let the old demon continue to torture him, Yuan Fang decided to use his ability to act pitiful. Yuan Fang was very familiar with screaming. After all, he had practiced it before. His voice directly covered the old demon's. The old demon's body trembled as he looked at his broken fingernail. When he looked at Yuan Fang again, His expression became extremely horrified. "Ah, it hurts, it hurts!" Yuan Fong continued to scream. After a while, when he realized that there was no movement around him, Yuan Fong immediately stopped screaming. He turned around and saw that the prison door was already closed. The old demon was standing outside, looking at him with a face full of resentment. "Ah, old almsgiver, you're not going to continue?" Yuan Fong asked expectantly. The old demon did not speak. He covered his hand and stared at Yuan Fong, making Yuan Fong feel a little embarrassed. "Old almsgiver, it was an accident just now. I'm very afraid of pain. Why don't you try again?" Yuan Fong said as if he thought it was okay. "Little Baldy, do you really think I can't do anything to you?" The old demon said fiercely. "Oh, Amitabha, Buddha bless you," Yuan Fong immediately chanted. After glaring at Yuan Fong again, the old demon turned around and left. When he returned after a while, his injured finger had already formed a scab. There was a layer of green powder on it, and the smell of medicine wafted in the air. "Old almsgiver, are you okay?" Yuan Fong asked immediately. "Little Baldy, look what I brought you." As he spoke, the old demon took out a can. After opening the lid, it immediately revealed densely packed poisonous insects that were wriggling. Yuan Fong could not help but be stunned when he saw what was inside the can. These poisonous insects are carefully cultivated by me. Although their toxicity is not strong, they will definitely make you wish you were dead." As he spoke, a look of resentment appeared on the old demon's face. Hearing this, Yuan Fong's expression became strange. After thinking for a while, he said, "Old almsgiver, Buddha will really bless you this time." Yuan Fong said sincerely. Chapter 431. Seeing that there was still no fear on Yuan Fong's face, the old demon could not help but snort coldly. "I know you've mastered some kind of damage transferability, but this time you'll have to enjoy it." Saying that, the old demon took out a key, opened the cell door again, and walked in. Coming to Yuan Fong's side, the old demon stretched out his hand and pried open Yuan Fong's mouth. Then he took out a bug that looked like a centipede and stuffed it into Yuan Fong's mouth with a grim smile. One by one, the old demon stuffed more than 10 of them into Yuan Fong's mouth before he stopped. To prevent Yuan Fong from crushing the poisonous bug with his teeth, the old demon used his fingers to clamp Yuan Fong's teeth until the poisonous bug drilled into Yuan Fong's throat. Ugh! Yuan Fong's face showed a constipated expression after the poisonous bug entered his stomach, because it was not delicious at all. As for whether the centipede could hurt him, Yuan Fong was not worried at all. After all, he cultivated both his internal and external body, so why would he be afraid of a mere poisonous bug? It was the smell of the bug that made Yuan Fong feel disgusted. Seeing that Yuan Fong's expression had become extremely bad, the old demon could not help but grin. No matter how strong your body is, your internal organs are not capable of this. Let me tell you, this poisonous bug will drill into your stomach, but it will not be digested. Instead, it will gnaw at your body's organs bit by bit and inject venom into your blood vessels. When the venom flows into your heart, TSK, that taste is really wonderful. The old demon said with an intoxicated expression. Yuan Fong listened to the old demon's boast with a bored expression. From Yuan Fong's point of view, the poisonous bug might have already been in his stomach and killed by itself. In fact, what the old demon did not say was that this poisonous bug was not an ordinary poisonous bug. Instead, it was a life-sucking bug that he had cultivated with his own blood essence. This bug was connected to his bloodline, and its main function was not to torture people, but to devour their vitality and blood essence to nourish himself. The old demon had long reached the age where he should have died. The reason why he was still alive was because of the help of this poisonous bug. He would not tell anyone about this because it was his biggest secret. More importantly, as long as he did not say it out loud, everyone would think that he only liked to torture mortals. They would not know that he was always stealing the life essence of prisoners. At this moment, the old demon calmed his heart and began to wait for the poisonous insects to start devouring him. He was also looking forward to the feedback from the life essence. However, what surprised him was that the feedback from the poisonous insects should have appeared long ago if it was in the past. Why didn't it come this time? This made the old demon a little anxious. He looked at Yuan Fong and could not help but say, "Don't you feel anything?" When Yuan Fong heard that, he replied with a constipated expression, "Yes, it's quite disgusting. I feel like vomiting." Hearing this, the old demon was stunned. He raised his hand angrily and was about to slap Yuan Fong's face, but he didn't have the courage to do so. Oh, at this time, the venomous bug's feedback suddenly appeared. A pale green, almost transparent thread extended from Yuan Fong's chest and connected to the left side of the old demon's chest where his heart was. At this moment, the old demon's face revealed an expression of surprise. This was because he knew that the poisonous insect's life devour ability had been activated, and he would soon be able to absorb a large amount of life force. Looking at the stunned Yuan Fong, the old demon smiled sinisterly. "Little Baldy, be obedient and enjoy it. If it hurts, remember to shout louder." Yuan Fong nodded obediently. Ah! Suddenly a scream was heard. However, it wasn't Yuan Fong who screamed. It was the old demon. His body trembled and suddenly fell to the ground, curled up and began to twitch. Bit by bit, life essence was extracted from the old demon's body and entered Yuan Fong's body through the green string. The poisonous insect's life devour ability was currently negated by the moke's immeasurable body, because the damage was less than 500 points. However, the 15% feedback began to extract life force from the old demon's body, and then through the green string, the life force entered Yuan Fong's body bit by bit. At this moment, the game notifications kept ringing in Yuan Fong's ears. Game notification. You have received 10 EXP points. Game notification. You have received 10 EXP points. Game notification. You have received 10 EXP points. All the life force was automatically converted into EXP points by the artifact and fed back to Yuan Fong. At this moment, Yuan Fong couldn't help but be dumbfounded. What's going on? Can being bitten by poisonous insects give me EXP? Oh my god! Buddha bless me. Soon, Yuan Fong leveled up under the old demon's transfer of life force. Game notification. You have received 10 EXP points. Your experience bar is full. You have successfully leveled up to level 9. Game notification. Leveling up reward. HP plus 48. Yendi plus 1. STR plus 1. Happiness came so suddenly that Yuan Fong was caught off guard. Leveling up was already a huge problem for Yuan Fong. After all, he couldn't kill monsters at all. So, at this moment, the increasing EXP points were a blessing from the heavens to Yuan Fong. It was the blessing of Buddha. Looking at the old demon on the ground wailing, Yuan Fong couldn't help but mutter, "Oh, Amit Ba!" He originally thought that the poisonous insects would be killed by the backlash, but he didn't expect this to happen. This also made Yuan Fong realize that this change was definitely the old demon taking something from him. Unfortunately, the old demon had encountered Yuan Fong, who had the moke's immeasurable body. Arg, what the hell is going on? How is this possible? The old demon fell to the ground and twitched. His eyes were wide open as if he was suffering from some inhuman torture. Quick! Spit out the poisonous insects. Quick! Under extreme pain, the old demon's hair was disheveled and he kept wailing. However, Yuan Fong didn't care at all, nor did he sympathize with him. In his opinion, the old demon deserved it. At this moment, he was immersed in the joy of continuously increasing his EXP points, not to mention the fact that he couldn't spit it out. Even if he could, he wouldn't be willing to. As his life force flowed away, the old demon was horrified to find that there were more and more wrinkles on his palms. He subconsciously touched his cheeks and suddenly found that his face was already full of wrinkles. "Spit it out, quick, I beg you." The old demon wailed like a madman. He struggled to stand up. However, before he could stand up, he staggered and fell to the ground. He began to twitch again and even foamed at the mouth. This kind of pain should have been borne by Yuan Fong, but at this moment it was being fed back to the old demon. Every time the poisonous insect bit Yuan Fong, part of the damage would be transferred to the old demon's body. Then it would absorb the old demon's life force and feed it back to Yuan Fong. The moment the bad cycle started, the old demon's fate was already sealed. At this moment, the old demon was in extreme pain. He screamed and wailed crazily, trying his best to resist the devouring pain. However, it was all in vain. Under such extreme pain, the old demon even had thoughts of suicide. However, the pain came wave after wave, and his body couldn't stop trembling. Even if he wanted to commit suicide, he couldn't do it. He could only twitch his body along with the pain. His life force flowed away bit by bit. At this moment, Yuan Fong had risen to level 15, but the old demon had become extremely old. His long gray hair had turned white, and there was no trace of blood on his pale face. He was so old that he didn't look like he had aged at all. Oh, Amitabha! Seeing this, Yuan Fong couldn't help but sigh. Good and evil will always be rewarded. Old benefactor, you like to abuse others, but you never thought that you would end your life in this way, right? Sigh. At this moment, the old demon had stopped struggling. His mouth was full of white saliva, and his body twitched occasionally as if it was a conditioned reflex. He looked extremely miserable. Even before he died, the old demon's eyes were still wide open. He knew that he was going to die, and he had guessed countless ways of dying. However, he never thought that he would end his life in this way. He used the venomous insect torture that he had invented himself. At the moment of death, he felt the extreme pain that the prisoners had experienced. That feeling was like he was in purgatory, and it was unbearable. At this moment, he suddenly regretted and felt that he shouldn't have invented such a thing. However, it was all too late. As a large amount of life force flowed away, the old demon's pain finally ended. When the last wisp of life force flowed out, his eyes gradually dimmed. Game notification. You killed the target ghost goat by means of damage feedback. Obtained 1 experience point, 0 soul coins. The moment he received the game notification, Yuan Fong was dumbfounded. Why was there only 1 experience point? And no soul coins? Yuan Fong was dumbfounded. He thought that after killing the target, he would get a lot of experience points, but he didn't expect that there would be nothing. However, what Yuan Fong didn't know was that the experience points on the ghost goat had already been absorbed by him through the feedback. The artifact couldn't produce experience points and soul coins out of thin air, so he didn't get the reward when he killed the target. However, Yuan Fong didn't know this, so he felt very sad. He even suspected that it was because of Mo Kuwuliang that he had lost all the experience points he had gained. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong felt depressed. Mo Kuwuliang was powerful, but he had too many restrictions. Buddha, do you not love Yuan Fong anymore? Yuan Fong's willpower was slowly sinking. At this moment, the game notification rang again. Game notification. You killed life-sucking bug by means of damage feedback. Obtained plus 29 experience points, plus 1 soul coin. Game notification. You killed life-sucking bug by means of damage feedback. Obtained plus 29 experience points, plus 1 soul coin. At this moment, following the death of the old demon, the life-sucking bug in Yuan Fong's body didn't have a target for damage feedback. It could only bear all the damage by itself, and finally it started to die. The game notification rang for more than 10 times, and Yuan Fong was energized once again. This was because he knew that Mo Kuwuliang didn't limit the amount of experience points he could gain. There was hope in his life again, and the Buddha was still protecting him. Looking at the dead old demon, Yuan Fong muttered, "Oh, Amitabha," again, and began to struggle, because being suspended in midair made him feel very uncomfortable. However, It was obvious that even though he had leveled up, he still couldn't break free from the rope with his current strength. After a series of weak struggles, Yuan Fong gave up completely. It was late at night, and the surroundings were very quiet. Occasionally, the crackling sound of wood burning from the bonfire outside could be heard. Yuan Fong, who was still tied up in midair, started to think about life. At this moment, he suddenly thought that, since he could gain a lot of experience points from the old demon, could he take this path in the future? For example, he could find monsters with curse abilities and let them cast a continuous damage curse on him. Then, he could continuously reflect the damage back to the cursed master and kill him. That way, he could gain experience points and soul coins. Thinking of this, Yuan Fong couldn't help but nod. It could work. Chapter 432. All in all, it was an impossible mission for them to save this player from the sinkhole at the Mansion of the Dead. That's right, but there's a big problem now. He's trapped in the sinkhole at the Mansion of the Dead. How are we going to save him? Thinking of this, Guyu clicked on his friend list and began to contact his friends who were cheating on the wall in Bakey. Dream on! The guard glared at him again and walked out of the prison, slowly locking the door. Little by little, he moved toward the food not far away. He looked like he was struggling, but soon they figured out the reason. Wang Long was speechless. How am I going to get out if I don't starve to death? As time passed, Yuan Fong was getting hungrier and hungrier. Yuan Fong, I think that unity is strength. A person's life is too monotonous after all. Besides, my master always said that the true meaning of Buddhism can only be found in the hustle and bustle of the world. The meaning of ascetic cultivation is to blend into life and step into the mundane world. So, I suddenly feel that it's better to join a guild. This is really good. The dog was speechless, because they were going to face an army, not just Earth alone. Besides, he was not sure if there were any other brothers from the 9 luminaries in the sinkhole at the Mansion of the Dead. Guyu, who looked helpless at first, was shocked when he heard that. But after thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was very feasible. The members of the wall-hanging team were all at least at the Ghost Commander level, and they had even killed Jin Yao when they joined forces. If they attacked together and snuck in instead of fighting head-on, they would indeed be able to deal a huge amount of damage. Wang Long, little monk, where are you? I told you recently that many guilds want you to join them. Have you thought about it? Are there any guilds that you like? Facing the little baldy that even the great Lord Earth was helpless against, torturing him was undoubtedly a suicide mission. Looking at the food on the ground, Yuan Fong suddenly felt hungry. Wang Long, Earth strength is at the beginner level of a Ghost King. Although he's the weakest among his brothers, I can't defeat him. I can't save you, helpless JPG. After all, the guild members now had a long-range shooter, Mo Lingtian, and a healer dog. It was already very complete. They only lacked a frontline meat shield. This problem really troubled Yuan Fong. After all, he didn't have much strength, so it was unrealistic for him to force his way out. However, in Yuan Fong's opinion, it was still a rare delicacy, and he was just about to eat it when his expression suddenly froze. Yuan Fong fell to the ground. Don't even think about it. I don't even know where the demonic god went. Also, I'm not his disciple. He didn't acknowledge me as his disciple. He only gave me the inheritance. It should not be difficult to save the monk. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. He felt that even the most vicious beating he had suffered was not as painful as starvation. Lu Chai, Hu He, Nya Fong, Murphy, little Pomelo's family, Ao, Jian, Qiming, and so on. To be honest, even if he mobilized the entire guild strength, he still wouldn't be able to enter that place. After reading the content of the message, Guyu's face lit up. Just as Yuan Fong approached the food and was about to take a bite, his friend list suddenly popped up, and Wang Long's profile picture jumped. After struggling with his thoughts for a while, Yuan Fong put down the food with a pained look on his face. He then shrunk into a corner and sat cross-legged on the ground. He was prepared to starve himself to death and escape from this place. Trying to run, the guard couldn't help but say, but he was really hungry and wanted to eat. Eat! Upon hearing this, Yuan Fong suddenly opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. After a while, Yuan Fong stopped meditating. He felt that it was too painful. The wall-hanging squad. If we ask our brothers for help, they will definitely agree. We don't need a large-scale attack, as it will attract too much firepower. We just need to be elites and find a dark and windy night to sneak in together. The dog said excitedly. Wang Chao, the leader of the Myth Guild, is a tycoon. He has a lot of spiritual materials in his hands. I heard that he has been doing sea trading recently and has earned a lot of spiritual materials. If you join him, you might be able to eat food made of spiritual materials every day. He came here to cultivate, to comprehend the great way of Buddhism, not to go to jail. Golden-rimmed cabbage, tofu with tofu, dried tofu, braised eggplant with dried vegetables, stir-fried potatoes with mushrooms. Boss, can he kill himself and get out? The dog asked curiously. Should I just take a bite? Should I just take a bite? Yuan Fong thought in grief and indignation. What's the solution? Guyu, who was also thinking, raised his head helplessly when his train of thought was interrupted. After a while, he clapped his claws again. I want to. Yuan Fong answered very honestly. The next morning, the guards arrived. Nonsense. Do you want me to feed you? The guard could not help but glare at him. He then swung his sword a few times and cut the black rope that was entangled around Yuan Fong. Obviously, he had targeted the wrong person this time. Of course, there was also the very important wall hanger, Yi Qin. Although they could not kill Yuan Fong with force, it was very easy for them to put him under house arrest. At this moment, they could see that this Baldy had no combat ability at all. He only had amazing defense and the terrifying ability to transfer damage. It was very easy to subdue him. It was the first time in his life that he had encountered such a difficult choice. Every choice was so heartbreaking. Yuan Fong felt that he was troubled. Seeing this, Yuan Fong could not help but be stunned, but he still opened the chat box. Although food was provided every day, how was he going to get out? He was able to endure the pain of the damage feedback and was willing to do it until he died. He could not help but admire him. So the problem now is how to get him out. This is also the condition for him to join our guild. Unfortunately, we are obviously not strong enough. Unless all the Beiki players are willing to help us and launch another wave of attacks, we can take advantage of the chaos to rescue the monk. Wang Long. Oh right, why don't you join the Myth Guild? Their guild is very strong. If you are their member, they will definitely find a way to save you. Boss, why are you smiling and frowning? Is the demonic god's power acting up? The dog asked in a muffled voice with dried fish in his mouth. Rubbing his arm, Yuan Fong subconsciously looked outside the prison cell. Due to Yuan Fong's physique, although the spiritual energy in the underworld could replenish his body and prevent him from getting hungry easily, the consumption was still huge. The only thing it could do was delay the process. Wang Chao, then I'll help you contact them. Wait a moment, almsgiver, please release me. I don't need to be fed. Yuan Fong said solemnly. Upon hearing this, the dog rested his chin on one hand and looked like he was in deep thought, because he suddenly remembered that he might really have to stay in prison forever. The dog suddenly realized how difficult it would be to rescue him. A moment later, Guyu, who had just finished exchanging spiritual materials with the Bolu clan in the Void Ocean, received a message from Wang Chao. In order to alleviate his hunger, he could only suck in air. However, what surprised them was how the old devil could torture him to death. The little Baldy who gave them a headache was currently tied up in midair while the prison guard, the old devil, was lying on the ground with white foam coming out of his mouth. Yuan Fong, this isn't a good idea. Actually, I just want to be free and unfettered. I never thought of joining any guild, but I still want to eat. The food smells so good. However, when he saw Wang Chao's message saying that this player was trapped in the pit of the dead, Guyu could not help but frown. Yuan Fong, almsgiver Wang Long, I've been imprisoned by the Earth Lord and can't get out. Let's talk about joining the guild after I get out. I can only choose one of the two. What a painful choice. Yuan Fong, it's a long story. I wanted to train my supernatural power with Almsgiver Earth, but he cheated, therefore they were indifferent when they faced Yuan Fong. They were not worried that he would escape. They used to think that he was a pervert, but now that they thought about it, he was not only cruel to prisoners, but also to himself. However, the aroma did not quench his hunger. Instead, it intensified his hunger. However, when they saw the situation in the prison, they could not help but be shocked. To eat or not to eat? Food and freedom. At this moment, the Bakey wall cheaters were ready to assemble. Yuan Fong immediately turned to face the wall and began to meditate to reduce his pain. At this moment, Yuan Fong was struggling with his thoughts. Yuan Fong, almsgiver, I'll figure it out myself. There's no need to trouble you. After the two guards left, Yuan Fong was overjoyed. He sat on the ground with his legs crossed and picked up the plate on the ground, ready to eat. Little Baldy, time to eat. At this moment, the old devil's face was gray. It was obvious that he was dead. The food provided by the guards was very simple. Naturally, they could not provide food made of spiritual ingredients. It was just some coarse rations made of ordinary ingredients. Oh, right, boss. Why don't you ask the demonic god for help? You're his disciple. The dog clapped his paw as an idea came to him. I asked him, but he won't kill himself. Guyu looked helpless. At this moment, the two guards sincerely admired the old devil. They felt that he was a real man. They were very familiar with the old devil. His greatest pleasure was to torture prisoners and enjoy the despair and screams of the prisoners when they were in pain. Upon hearing this, Guyu glared at the dog. Then he shared his chat with Wang Long in the team chat box. Wang Chao was speechless. Can't he feel the pain feedback? Can't he just stop? D*MN. Is that bald monk going to join our guild? Go Z's eyes widened, and he was so shocked that he dropped his dried fish. At this moment, Guyu was sincerely happy. Wang Long, how did you get imprisoned by Almsgiver Earth? Therefore, he looked at the food on the plate again and thought, should I starve to death? With a sigh, the two guards walked into the cell. One of them grabbed the old devil's legs and began to drag his body out. The other guard put the food on the ground and patted Yuan Fong's cheek. After some communication, other than Hu He and Nia Fong, who said that they were in the land of Tsangshu and could not return for the time being, the other friends agreed to Guyu's request. Boss, it's still too early for the festival. The stupid officials don't have any activities. Now, the players are developing on their own. Why would they go to the crater of the dead to save people with us? The dog shrugged helplessly. Moreover, the aroma of the food that was placed not far away lingered in Yuan Fong's nose, making him hungrier. Yuan Fong felt that he was going bald from all the worry. Boss, I have an idea. He did not expect this super newcomer to be willing to join his guild. This would undoubtedly increase the strength of their guild. Chapter 433. After contacting his friends on the wall and several guild leaders, Guyu finally had some confidence in rescuing the little monk. Guyu had no doubt about the strength of these friends. Their strength was not only reflected in the inheritance they obtained, but also in their personal qualities. This was just like Ao, Jian, Qiming, and the others. The same inheritance in the hands of other players could never be compared to the power displayed in their hands. After contacting them, Guyu called the dog and Emo Lingtian, and the three of them set off to Bakey's Liuli coast by ship. Although there were actually many outstanding players in the guild, since they decided to act in the form of a wall team this time, they naturally did not bring these people along. In Guyu's opinion, it was easier to be exposed with more people. After a few hours of sailing, they arrived at Liuli coast. At this time, there were already several people waiting on the coast. They were Murphy and Little Pomelo's family, Yi Chen and Yi Shui. Seeing Guyu's arrival, They immediately stopped chatting and turned to look at Guyu, who came down from the legend worship. Master Gu, what's going on? Are you planning to share some of the spiritual materials that you've earned from the sea trade? Yi Shui squinted her eyes and smiled. Little Shui, you're obviously so rich. How can you ask our boss for spiritual materials? This is free help, free of charge, the dog said before Guyu could speak. No matter how rich I am, I'm not as rich as your Master Gu. Oh, right, dog, why don't you join me? Our guild needs a healer. Yi Shui giggled. No, my boss is the best. The dog immediately bared his teeth. Dog, there are many beautiful girls in our guild. Yi Qin teased. Hearing this, the dog's face froze, and then he secretly glanced at Guyu. Go if you want to go, don't force yourself. Guyu could not help but stare. No, I, the dog, value friendship the most. I will never be tempted by beauty. The dog immediately said, as if to prove his firm stand, he raised his paw and slapped the ground angrily. Master Gu, they're here. At this time, a shout came from afar. Everyone turned their heads and immediately realized that it was Chun Ziyu from the Great Dragon Guild. Behind him were Shui, Li, and Winqim. Wow, a beauty! When he saw Feng Ling, Go Zi was so shocked that he stood up. Hey, Big Gu dog, Mo Ling Tian. Shui Li walked to the front of them with shadow steps and rubbed Dog's head. Shui Li, who is she? Go. Zi pointed at the beautiful Feng Ling and asked expectantly. Her name is Winqim, and she's the strongest assistant in our Great Dragon Guild. She's just a little bit weaker than you. Shui Li teased, using her index finger and thumb to measure the distance. I don't believe it. Although she is beautiful, I am the strongest. Go! Zi couldn't help but place his hands on his waist. Shui Li was about to answer when Guyu looked at Qin Ziyu and said, Boss Qin, where's your Demang? Qin Ziyu smiled bitterly when he heard that. Demang has been fooling around in the Kuelong Ocean every day, so he won't be participating in this operation. Guyu could not help but nod, but when he looked at Feng Ling, his eyes flashed with curiosity. As Winqim had been staying in the Great Dragon Guild's encampment all this while, everyone present was unfamiliar with her. Hello everyone, I'm Winqim, a member of the Songster clan of Muyi. I'm now a member of the Great Dragon Guild. Winqim bowed, slightly in an elegant manner. Her melodious voice, long hair that fluttered in the wind, and a delicate face. At this moment, the scene seemed to freeze, causing Guyu and the others to be slightly dazed. Chun Ziyu, I've heard that you have a mistress in your house, but I didn't expect it to be true. I've misjudged you. A rough voice came from afar. The person who came was Lu Chai himself. However, he came alone and did not bring any guild members with him. Guyu and the others were not surprised by this. Although Lu Chai's demolition officers were the strongest guild in Beiki at this stage, their strongest aspect was their number of people and overall strength, which was completely different from the elites of the Myth Guild. Boss Lu, don't joke with me. Why would I do such a thing? Chun Ziyu seemed a little embarrassed. Lu Chai laughed out loud when he heard that, then turned to look at Guyu. Boss Gu, you're too unkind. You've tricked this potential newbie into your hands without saying a word, and now you want us to help you save her. Just tell me what kind of compensation you're offering. Guyu shrugged helplessly. You're wrong this time. She came to me on her own accord. The Myth Guild has always been open to potential players. As for compensation, I'll definitely not let you come for nothing. I have 30,000 spiritual materials stored in my space, all of them as compensation. Guyu said straightforwardly. What the F***ck, you said it, so casually after giving away 30,000 spiritual materials. I heard that you've made a lot of money as a sea merchant. It's true. Lu Chai was very surprised. I only wanted to be a free labor, but it seems like I'll have to fight the tycoons this time. Shui Li also chuckled. You're giving me face by coming here, so you should take the compensation. Besides, this mission is not easy. Guyu said with a smile. Look, is this what friends should do? Can't you be a little more magnanimous and decline? Then, our boss will also decline symbolically. Then you guys will persist for a while, and finally let our boss say something. Since you're so insistent, then let's do it. That's the way it should be. Sun Chi raised his paw and slammed it on the ground as he bared his teeth. No, everyone said in unison. Among them, Chiu Chiu's voice was the loudest. Yo, little kid, come and call me uncle. Sun Chi immediately turned his gaze to Chiu Chiu and said with a smile, Uncle Dog, can I ride you? Chiu Chiu immediately trotted to Sun Chi's side and said with a face full of anticipation. Upon hearing this, Sun Chi's expression instantly froze because Chiu Chiu had inadvertently poked the sore spot in his heart. At this moment, Xueli, who was at the side, pulled out her dagger and pointed it forward. She shouted with a solemn expression, Dog Knight, charge and kill! Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter. Sun Chi suddenly felt as if he had received a critical hit of 10,000 points. He could not help but bare his teeth at Xueli and almost pounced on her. I'm late. It's so lively here. At this moment, Qi Ming's figure also appeared not far away, walking over step by step. Old Master Qi Ming, Lu Chai, Guyu, and the others immediately turned around to greet him. At this moment, a figure also appeared on the other side. This person carried 9 spiritual swords on his back and looked extremely cool. It was Ao Jian. Old Master Gu, you're late. Ao Jian said with an indifferent expression. We've just arrived too. We're not late, Guyu said with a smile. Guyu had long been accustomed to Ao Jian's attitude. After all, Ao Jian had been in the Myth Guild for a period of time. He had even contributed a lot during the guild hegemony competition, so he could be considered as an acquaintance. How many people are missing? At this moment, Lu Chai faced Guyu and asked, The great demon king and bomber are still in the land of Tsangshu. They can't make it back in time. There was originally a beast-taming master, but his Xiao Kuin is not suitable for land battles, so we didn't invite him. By the way, there's also old Master Tang Mu. He can't make it either. Everyone is here now. Lu Chai could not help but nod when he heard that. He then glanced at the people present. Guyu, Sun Chi, Mo Lingtian, Yi Chen, Yi Shui, Chinzu, Xueli, Fengling, Murphy, and little Pomelo's family, Ao Jian, Qiming, and himself. There were a total of 14 people. In Lu Chai's opinion, such a lineup was already very strong. Now, let's make a plan on how to rescue this meat shield, Lu Chai said. Everyone nodded and then found a place to sit by the beach and began to discuss how to rescue the little monk. In the subsequent discussion, Lu Chai was basically the one who came up with the strategy. In this aspect, Lu Chai was more experienced than everyone present. During this period, everyone put forward their own opinions and constantly improved the process of the plan. However, during the process, Murphy and little Pomelo expressed that they would not bring Chocho to the battle. They wanted to exclude Chocho from the plan. Regarding this, Chocho strongly objected, saying that he was already a famous assassin and requested to join the battle. As Chocho's attitude was extremely firm, persuasion was futile. Therefore, Murphy and little Pomelo could only reward him with a round of mixed doubles before he became obedient. The discussion continued. As the sky gradually darkened, the rescue plan had been formulated. However, everyone did not depart immediately. Instead, they continued to chat. After all, it was better to sneak into the battle in the dead of night. Moreover, everyone was familiar with each other. It was rare for them to get together, so Guyu specially bought a batch of extremely high-quality spiritual food and with spirit wine from the auction house. After treating everyone to a good meal, they decided to depart. Before they left, Chocho once again objected, shamelessly and strongly requesting to join the team. Therefore, after receiving another round of filial piety, the team officially set off. 3 hours later, It was already late at night, although the bonfire in the mansion of the dead sinkhole was still lit, and the soldiers were still performing their duty as guards. This was the moment when their vigilance was at its lowest. The night breeze was gentle, and in the reflection of the swaying bonfire, a black shadow flashed past. The guard looked in that direction with a strange expression, but after realizing that there was nothing wrong, he turned back again. At this moment, little Pomelo and Murphy had merged into one, using the shadow stealth technique to quickly move toward the coordinates sent by Yuan Fong. The superb stealth technique allowed their movements to be extremely covert, and the guards could not find any trace of them at all. At this moment, in the prison cell, Yuan Fong was lying on the ground weakly, staring at the food on the ground. His heart was still in a state of incomparable struggle, although he knew that someone would come to rescue him. Wang Long also told him that the other party did not have an absolute guarantee, but only asked him to be prepared. Therefore, Yuan Fong continued to starve, waiting for the rescue, and at the same time making sure that he was safe. That was to starve himself to death. At this moment, a shadow quickly came from afar and slowly gathered outside the prison cell, forming into two figures. Two cold lights flashed, and the iron bars were instantly cut by the sharp daggers, revealing a gap that was more than half a meter high. "Let's go," Murphy immediately said. The sudden appearance of Murphy and little Pomelo shocked Yuan Fong, but when he realized that they were the people who came to rescue him, Yuan Fong was ecstatic. Therefore, under the surprised gaze of Murphy and little Pomelo, he picked up the food and began to stuff it into his mouth. "What are you doing?" Murphy could not help but frown. I really can't hold on any longer. Since I can walk, I don't have to struggle anymore. I must eat." Yuan Fong answered vaguely. Upon hearing this, Murphy and little Pomelo looked at each other, almost stabbing him in the back. Did this sound like something a human would say? They came from afar to rescue him, but this little Baldy obviously did not have the consciousness of being rescued. Chapter 434. Murphy and little Pomelo felt extremely helpless as they looked at Yuan Fong, who was wolfing down his food. To them, eating at such a critical moment was not being careless, but being extremely stupid. However, to Yuan Fong, who had been struggling for a whole day, he was afraid that he would develop a mental barrier if he did not eat this meal before leaving. Fortunately, Yuan Fong finished his meal quickly. As he stood up, he looked at Murphy and little Pomelo and said, "My two benefactors, let's leave now." "Don't rush. We can sneak, but you can't. It's not that easy to get out." Murphy immediately spoke and then opened the team's live chat channel. He said, "I've found the little monk. Make some noise, and we'll bring him out." On the edge of the sinkhole, Guyu and the rest, who were already prepared, immediately took action. Emo Lingtian and Yi Qin drew their bows at the same time and began charging. Two flaming arrows slowly took shape and solidified. Bang! The bowstrings trembled and two arrows were released, shooting toward the bottom of the mansion of the dead sinkhole, although one of the arrows was completely off the intended direction. Fortunately, one of them accurately hit a tent at the bottom of the sinkhole. Boom! The tent fell apart in an instant. Flames rose and began to burn fiercely. The loud noise alerted many soldiers from the 9 luminaries. The well-trained soldiers did not hesitate and decisively sounded the alarm in the military camp. A large number of soldiers began to rush out of the tents and quickly gathered. Even Earth, who was in the midst of cultivation, suddenly opened his eyes at this moment with a trace of anger flashing in his eyes. He did not have to guess to know that it was the player clan again. He immediately stood up and walked out of the military camp. When he walked out of the military tent, it was a mess outside. A large number of soldiers were running toward their respective teams and getting ready to gather. In the distance, a tent was burning. The player clan is above the sinkhole. Red Tiger Camp, kill with me. Southeast side above the sinkhole. Mystical Earth Camp, kill with me. Teams of soldiers quickly gathered and began to kill Guyu and the rest under the leadership of their commander. Guyu and the rest could not help but look grim when they saw the situation. Although the firepower attracted was not bad, the pressure they had to bear was also great. Everyone get ready. The bastards from the 9 luminaries are coming. Lu Chai clenched his fist as a ferocious look flashed across his face. At this moment, Guyu directly activated the body of the evil god. Red lines began to spread on the surface of his body. His body suddenly grew a meter taller, and his crimson eyes looked exceptionally terrifying. Seeing this, Qi Ming took a step forward and slammed the staff in his hand into the ground. A ghost dom domain that covered a radius of 15 meters was formed. Countless black shadows crawled out from the ground and began to wander in the ghost dom domain, wailing. Humph. While Ao Jian snorted coldly, the 9 spiritual swords behind him slowly floated into the air and began to hover above his head. With a point of his arm, the 9 spiritual swords formed a sword formation in front of him. Everyone began to exert their strength and prepared to face the enemy. At that moment, a melodious and ethereal voice rang out. The voice seemed to be able to wash away the anxiety and fear in people's hearts, allowing them to focus instantly. At the same time, a game notification rang in their ears. Game notification. All party members have received the blessing of Fengling's Song of the Wood Deity. All party members will receive 15 HP recovery per second, 200 HP bonus, 7 yendi bonus, and 10% speed bonus. What the F***CK, that's powerful. Sun Qi's eyes widened when he saw the effect of the attribute enhancement. Hee, Sun Qi, work harder and evolve as soon as possible. Otherwise, my sister Fengling will definitely surpass you. She's a group support, and the coverage is much larger than yours. Shueli pulled out her dagger and said to Sun Qi proudly. Haha. Sun Qi could not help but stick out his tongue in reply. Be quiet, they're coming. Try to hold on a little longer and buy them some time, Lu Chai said with a solemn expression. At the same time, the purple gemstone on his body began to shine, and a ferocious purple shadow of a wild leopard appeared on his boxing gloves. All right, you guys go. Don't worry about my healing capacity. As long as I don't get killed instantly, there shouldn't be a problem. Sun Qi grinned. 2 pairs of small wings grew out from his back and flapped as he levitated into the air. Howl! An arrogant dog howled. The sky was instantly lit up by the scattering of pale green light spots. Game notification. All party members have entered the healing range of the Reign of Tranquility. 30 HP recovery per second. Little fella, come out and bite me. At this moment, Yi Shui threw out a ball-like object. The ball-like object exploded in midair, and then a ferocious red fire dragon emerged. Roar! The moment the fire dragon appeared, it began to roar excitedly. Then it descended and stood behind Yi Shui. What the F***CK? Fire dragon? The first pet in the whole server? Shui Li looked very shocked. That's right. I've fed it with spiritual materials. Yi Shui smiled sweetly. Then she pulled out her dagger, twirled it twice between her fingers, and suddenly clenched it tightly. Kill! Battle cries filled the sky. Densely packed soldiers of the 9 Yao army surged up from the slope of the giant crater. The scene was terrifying. The collective battle cries even made the earth tremble slightly. Let's go! Lu Chai took a step forward and leaped into the air. Then he swung his arm downwards forcefully. Suddenly, a shadow of a purple wild leopard surrounded by lightning bolts pounced down, knocking down a large number of 9 Yao army soldiers along the way. At this moment, Lu Chai, who had landed on the ground, clenched his fist. Instantly, the purple wild leopard exploded. Streaks of lightning scattered in all directions, electrocuting another group of 9 Yao army soldiers. Although the effect of this attack was outstanding, everyone in the team did not let their guard down at all because there were just too many 9 Yao army soldiers. As the front line, Guyu and Lu Chai were undoubtedly under the greatest pressure. At this moment, Guyu had already activated blood combustion. The scarlet flame outside his body burned and danced, making him look extremely ferocious and terrifying. He really looked like a devil. Boss Lou, let's compete to see who can kill more. I'm not reconciled to losing to you back then. At this moment, Guyu turned his head and stared at Lu Chai with his scarlet eyes. Haha, come, let's have some fun tonight. As a large number of Nine Yao army soldiers surrounded them, both of them dashed out at the same time and began to slaughter the Nine Yao army soldiers in the front line in order to protect the rear. On the second tier, Qi Ming and Ao Jin began to kill the remaining enemies that had bypassed Guyu and Lu Chai and entered the line of defense. On the third tier, Yi Shui, Shueli, and the other assassin players began to wander around, looking for stray enemies and quickly harvesting them. In addition to the double HP recovery buff, the Wall Cheater team's first assembly erupted with unparalleled power and forcefully withstood the first wave of ferocious attacks. Naturally, Earth, who was far away, had also noticed this scene. His expression became extremely solemn. This was because he could also see that these players were very different from most of the other players. They were obviously much stronger in terms of strength. However, he did not think that a mere dozen people could take down this place. Moreover, he did not think that this team would be so ignorant as to try to take down the camp that he was stationed at, because it was simply unrealistic. In that case, they must be plotting something by doing this. Earth could not help but fall into deep thought. He began to think about what exactly they were plotting. As he thought about it, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He thought about the little Baldy that he had recently imprisoned. At this moment, he could not help but reveal a smile on his face. Thinking of this, he immediately turned around and dashed toward the direction of the prison cell. At the same time, Murphy and little Pomelo received the retreat signal from Lu Chai in the team voice chat. They decisively pulled Yuan Fong out of the prison cell and began to run toward the outside world. Their journey was very smooth. A large number of soldiers were attracted by Guyu and the others. All of them had gathered to besiege them. There were no soldiers stationed outside the prison cell at all. Seeing this scene, Murphy and little Pomelo were overjoyed. They quickly pulled Yuan Fong and sprinted to the other side, intending to escape with Yuan Fong. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in front of them, looking at them with a smile. This person was wearing a khaki armor. There was a pattern that looked like a mountain peak in between his eyebrows. It was Earth, one of the Nine Yao brothers. What a foolish plan! Earth shook his head and sighed as he looked at Murphy and the others. At this moment, Murphy and little Pomelo's expressions changed abruptly. Initially, they thought that this plan was a success. However, they did not expect that the strongest person in the camp, Earth, would stop them at this crucial moment. Almsgiver Earth, how have you been? Yuan Fong immediately greeted. Long time no see. Earth smiled faintly. May the Lord Buddha bless your family. Yuan Fong said again. At this moment, Earth's smile disappeared, and his eyes revealed a murderous intent. Little monk, run, we'll stop him. Under such circumstances, Murphy and little Pomelo quickly made a decision. Almsgiver, we'll live and die together. Yuan Fong said with determination. Stupid bald donkey. He won't kill you. You won't die even if we die. Do you think you're filming a movie where we'll live and die together? We're here to save you. Run. Murphy was so angry that he wanted to turn around and stab Yuan Fong in the back. Got it. Hearing Murphy's rebuke, Yuan Fong was slightly embarrassed. He quickly turned around and ran away. He won't be able to escape, and both of you must die too. Earth snorted coldly when he saw this. He suddenly rushed toward Murphy and little Pomelo, swinging both of his palms at the same time. At this moment, Murphy and little Pomelo merged into one and turned into a shadow, narrowly dodging the attack. Although they knew that they were no match for Earth, they were still confident that they could withstand the attack for a while. After all, they had the strength of a ghost commander. When Earth missed his attack, the black shadow on the ground slid to the back of Earth. Both of them leaped out of their consolidated forms at the same time. Their sharp daggers, accompanied by a sudden flash of cold light, stabbed down violently. Roar! Earth stomped on the ground with his right foot. A violent wind pressure was formed with him as the center, sweeping in all directions. Instantly, Murphy and little Pomelo, who were close to him, flew away. Above the sinkhole in the mansion of the dead, the battle between Guyu and the others was still going on. Facing more and more enemies, the pressure on them continued to increase. Most importantly, the enemies had begun to surround them. At this moment, Ao Jian and Qi Ming had also become the front line. Together with Guyu and Lu Chai, they were defending the 4 directions of the team, resisting the enemies coming from all directions. Under such circumstances, everyone in the team was tense. This was because their HP was going up and down too quickly. It was so fast that they thought they would die in the next second. Fortunately, Sun Qi and Feng Ling's HP buff was very powerful, so they managed to maintain their HP. Now, they could only hope that Murphy and little Pomelo had already rescued the little Baldy. Otherwise, not only would their efforts be in vain, but the garrison of the 9 luminaries would also notice their intention. It would be even more difficult to rescue the little monk next time.